Hi, I'm Isa Calzado and I'm a COVID-19 survivor. The safest blood or plasma donation comes from voluntary, unpaid blood donation from COVID-19 survivors like myself. So I am encouraging my fellow survivors to please donate your plasma or your blood because so many people are in need of this. Let's help save lives.
Excited, girls! Saan ba tayo pupunta?
Diba, you asked, what can we do to make a difference?
Give blood! 3 lives ang pwede mong maligtas with just 1 bag. Give now! Over 18 ka na, healthy pa, pwede kang mag-donate. Give often! Every 3 months, gawing habit mo ng mag-donate.
Wow! Ang sarap na pakiramdam!
So remember, give blood, give now, give often. Give blood, give now, give often.
Isang mensahe mula sa Department of Health.
Good afternoon, everyone. Before we start, we would like to inform everyone of some reminders. Ensure that the microphone, speakers, and videos are working properly. Ensure that you have stable internet connection. Mute your microphones when not speaking. Use the chat box for any concerns and questions. Please change your profile names into your region, city, position, and name. Put your email address with your name, position, and region in the chat box for attendance. Certificate of attendance will be sent via email. This webinar will be recorded for documentation purposes. All questions from the participants will be entertained after all the speakers has presented. Please keep your videos open for the duration of the webinar. Thank you. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. I am Dr. Erica Margo Rojas, and
I am Robert Dominic Echeverry, and together, Dr. Erica and I are your moderators for today's webinar.
So before we start, we would like to acknowledge some important people. We would like to acknowledge the presence of our dear speakers, Dr. Taguyana from Philippine Blood Center, Ma'am Marites Estrella from NVBSP, Mayor Jose Marie Diaz of Ilagan City, Isabela, and Mr. Ulysses Santiago of Cagayan Valley Medical Center. We also would like to acknowledge the presence of DILG USEC RJ Echeverry. Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Today, we will commence with a 3-day webinar on local voluntary blood and convalescent plasma donation amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, entitled Dugo Mo, Buhay Ko. This is indeed an interesting and relevant endeavor as we all await the availability of vaccines. Convalescent plasma donation is truly the next best option in saving lives from the virus. It is our hope that this 3-day webinar will be a source of valuable information to all our participants, especially from the LGU sectors, as they will eventually play an enormous role in enforcing programs with regard to CP donation.
That is so true, Dr. Erica. Actually, we are happy to tell everyone that the joint memorandum circular between the DILG and the Department of Health on the guidelines in implementing convalescent plasma has already been duly signed by both Secretary Eduardo Año and Secretary Francisco Duque of the DILG and the DOH, respectively. But before we move forward and find out more about the developments on the JMC and of convalescent plasma donation, may I ask everybody to join us in prayer to our Almighty God, to be led by Attorney King John.
Glorious and blessed God, we place our work and ourselves into your hands. Anoint our creativity, our ideas, and our energy, so that even the smallest task may bring you honor. May we bring reflection and wisdom to our meeting. Use our expertise and our judgment and direct our contributions. When we are challenged, guide us. When we are weary, energize us. Let our discussion be charitable and our conclusions be fruitful. May the work we do and the way that we do it bring hope, life, and courage to our fellow public servants and to the Filipino people. Bless the Department of Interior and Local Government and the Department of Health with wisdom and discernment, its heads and employees with commitment and compassion, and the Filipino people with courage and strength. Rooted in your love, may your face illuminate all activities done in your name. Amen.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
Kayang magiliw, helas ng sinakalan, alam ng puso, sa dikit mo'y buhay. Lupang hinirang, tuyag ka ng magiting, sa mandulupin, di ka pasisingil, sa nagatang tutok sa simoy at sa langit mong pagaw, ay hinatang tula, kawin sa pagkayang minamahal, ang isang ng matawad mo'y tagumpay na nag-iingin, ang bituin at araw niya kailan pang ay di magtitingin. Luman ang araw ng walhagit pagsinta, buhay langit sa piling mo. Ang hindi kaya na pagkay mga akin, ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
So again, thank you everyone for joining us today, and a good morning to all of you. Welcome to Dugo, Buhay ko, webinar series on convalescent plasma donation. Now, for our welcome remarks, we have no less than the current Undersecretary for External and Legislative Affairs of the Department of the Interior and Local Government. He's also the Outcome Officer for Anti-Illegal Drug Initiatives and Programs of the DILG. USEC RICO Judge Janvier M. Echeverry has established his admirable reputation in strengthening our local ADACs or our anti-drug abuse councils. Under his sterling stewardship, 1,712 out of 1,709.83% of our provinces, cities, and municipalities were audited for functionality, and 155 LGUs were awarded for ADAC perfect functionality and lowered drug affectation just in year 2020, notwithstanding the pandemic and the disasters that have ravaged our country. His irrefragable track record started in San Beda College, where he was elected as external vice president of the College Student Council. Then, he served as the National Liga ng Mga Barangay President for 2 terms, from 2007 to 2010 and 2010 to 2013. He also served for 3 terms as Liga ng Mga Barangay Federation President of Caloocan City, and he is the ex-officio city councilor of the city from 2004 to 2013. Also, Yusek Echeverry is one of the founding members of the Ugnayang Barangay at Simbahan or UBAS, and served as chair of the PLEB or the People's Law Enforcement Board. He served in this office in 2007, as well as starting his term as EVP or Executive Vice President of the Union of Local Authorities or ULAP from 2007 to 2013. Excellence is in fact an indelible trait of Yusek Echeverry, as he is a graduate of the San Sebastian Recolitos College of Law, Manila, Juris Doctor Program, class of 2020. He's also a graduate of the Philippine Public Safety College, with a master's degree in Public Safety Administration, or MPSA. He is also a Level 3 procurement specialist, graduating from the University of the Philippines Government Procurement Policy Board program. And he is a BS Criminology graduate from St. Ferdinand College. Yusek Echeverry is currently a doctorate in philosophy of political science candidate in the De La Salle University and a Master's of Law candidate in the San Sebastian Recolitos College of Law, Manila. We really don't need to say more given this track record of our speaker today and the man behind this webinar series. Let us all welcome our dearest Undersecretary, Rico Judge Janvier M. Echeverry, for his welcoming remarks.
The COVID crisis has indeed taken an enormous toll upon the way we live our lives. This resulted in the so-called new normal, where everybody has to abide by minimum health protocols such as wearing of mask and face shield, observing physical distancing, washing of hands, and boosting our immune system, among others. Albeit, the vaccine is yet to be available. We have to adapt as we await the rollout of the vaccines. One concrete option that we have undertaken is to explore the efficacy of convalescent plasma donation. This is an investigational treatment where we extract convalescent plasma from recovered COVID-19 patients. Its outstanding level of efficacy has been corroborated in various countries. This has led to the creation of a joint memorandum circular between the DILG and DOH, setting forth the guidelines on the advocacy, recruitment, and community mobilization for the local voluntary blood and convalescent plasma donation program. This JMC, which was finally ratified last September of 2020, is intended to guide local government units and local blood councils in incorporating the convalescent plasma donation program in their local voluntary blood donation programs with their respective to advocacy, recruitment, and community mobilization. Moreover, this JMC has cemented the benign intention of both the DOH and DILG to exhaust all viable options until the time when the vaccine can be availed of by our people. The 3-day webinar is the best avenue to hash over this very pertinent issue in the very thick of this pandemic. Surely, this will be an informative and profoundly educational platform for our LGUs as when time approaches, they will be explicitly administrating this program. I would like to convey my most earnest gratitude to all our speakers. Your raw expertise will be a beacon of information as we all grapple with this virus. In addition, I urge our LGUs to participate actively in this notable activity. I know all of you will find this extremely useful as the day unfolds. At this junctive, I am indeed exultant to welcome all of you to this incontrovertible endeavor. Welcome, and I know ultimately we will outlast this pandemic. Sa ngalan ni Secretary Eduardo Anyo, mabuhay po kayong lahat at mabuhay ang Republika ng Pilipinas.
Thank you for that very insightful welcome remarks, Yusek Echeverry. Now, may we have another Undersecretary of the Department, our Undersecretary for Peace and Order. May we have another the Department, our Bernardo C. Flores Jr. carries a certificate in Business Economics from the University of the Asia and Pacific. He is a graduate of the International Academy of Management Economics, holding a master's degree in Business Administration. Currently, Yusek Flores is pursuing his doctorate in Environmental Studies at Miriam College. He is also a proud graduate of the Philippine Military Academy, belonging to the Matikas class of 1983. Our beloved Undersecretary served in various posts in the government, from the defunct Philippine Constabulary to the Philippine National Police to the National Drug Law Enforcement and Prevention Coordinating Center, now known as PDEA, and to the Dangerous Drug Board. After a year, he went back to the national headquarters of the PNP, where ultimately he served as the Community Relations Group, now known as the Police Community Affairs and Development Group. Our next speaker also has the highest eligibility that of a career service executive. Yusek Florese is likewise a recipient of innumerable accolades, among which are Heroism Medal, Military Merit Medals, and Police Commendation Medals. It is now time to welcome Undersecretary Junior, Undersecretary Junior to give his opening remarks.
Good afternoon and Happy New Year to everyone. Congratulations to USAC Judge Chiberi and his team at the Office of Undersecretary for External and Legislative Affairs for successfully organizing this webinar on blood and convalescent plasma donation. Convalescent plasma plays a very important role in the treatment of COVID-19, and there's a great demand for blood in the treatment of other medical conditions like dengue. There has been a rapid decline in blood donations during the COVID-19 pandemic, and this webinar series is a great way to encourage people to come forward and donate blood. Doing so has both physical and psychological benefits, which you may or may not be aware of. For instance, donating blood removes excess iron from the blood, which causes diseases like hemochromatosis and cancer, as well as heart and liver ailments such as cirrhosis, liver failure, damage to pancreas, and heart abnormalities like irregular heart rhythms and others. However, if your blood is too low on iron, you will not be allowed to donate. Regular blood donation also reduces the weight of the donors. It also lowers cholesterol, and this is helpful to those who are obese and are at higher risk of cardiovascular diseases and other health disorders. After donating blood, the body works to replenish the blood loss. This stimulates the production of new blood cells and in turn helps in maintaining good health. Studies show that blood donation also reduces stress and improves emotional well-being by getting rid of negative feelings and inducing a sense of belonging and reduced isolation. Since potential blood donors are usually required to take physical exams prior to donating, it can shed light on medical issues you didn't even know about. Blood donation can also prolong your life. People usually donate because it feels good to help others, and altruism and volunteering have been linked to positive health outcomes, including a lower risk for depression and greater longevity. The DILG and DOH have been actively advocating for more blood donations as stipulated in the guidelines on the advocacy, recruitment, and community mobilization for the local voluntary blood and convalescent plasma donation program. So to all the LGUs, we enjoin you to take an active stance in the program by incorporating the convalescent plasma donation program in the local voluntary blood donation programs, activities like advocacy, recruitment, and community mobilization. Of course, we also encourage you to allocate funds for this endeavor for it to push forward. You may also pass an ordinance adopting the program as one of your flagship projects and train donor recruiters. To all the webinar participants for this day, your participation indicates your interest in helping maintain the supply of blood and CP for medical emergencies. When you return to your regular work, please spread the word and help us promote blood and CP donation. If you are planning to donate blood, remember to drink plenty of water and eat well beforehand. If you exercise regularly, do it before donating blood and take iron tablet. Finally, if you are healthy and qualified, donate blood now. Who knows? Your blood donation could save the lives of your loved ones, families, friends, colleagues, or neighbors, or maybe your own. So go ahead, keep in touch with your LGUs or your respective convalescent plasma donation program. With that, I wish everyone a happy and healthy New Year. Mabuhay tayong lahat.
Thank you, Yusek Floresa, for that laudable speech.
So, definitely, it's very much a good start for our program that we're already going to talk about the COVID-19 convalescent plasma collection program. This is our first topic today, which will be discussed by Dr. Pedrito Y. Tagayuna, MD, FPSP. Dr. Tagayuna is a clinical pathologist with more than 10 years of experience in clinical laboratory management, encompassing from primary laboratory to specialty laboratory and national blood program management. His contribution to the academe is irrefutable by teaching and mentoring future physicians. He is among the forerunners in the field of health informatics, apheresis medicine, transfusion medicine, and immunohematology. He is one of those people who are credited for establishing the protocol on the SARS-CoV-2 convalescent plasma collection and performed the first collection ever of convalescent plasma in the Philippines. Currently, Dr. Pedrito Tagayuna heads the Philippine Blood Center and continues to actively participate in the advancement of convalescent plasma collection in the country. His qualifications are a fellow of the Philippine Society of Pathologists, a member of the International Society of Blood Transfusion, a member of the American Society of Blood Banks, a member of the American Society of Apheresis, Board of Governors, Philippine Blood Coordinating Council, and he is finishing his master's degree in health informatics from the University of the Philippines, Manila campus. Join me in welcoming our first speaker for this afternoon. Truly, we are honored to have you, Dr. Pedro Y. Tagayuna.
I believe we're having some technical difficulties on the side of Dr. Bobong Taguyanan. Dr. Bobong Taguyanan. For the meantime, can we acknowledge first our participants? Sir Miko, do you have other people who you want to thank for?
Yes, Dr. Erica. We would like to definitely acknowledge the presence of the Davao de Oro Regional Office on the blood bank. I believe that one of their participants is also joining today so that they might have a holistic understanding of the nationwide convalescent plasma donation efforts. We would also like to thank Ma'am Rachel of the Pasig City Health Department, Ma'am Rachel Milan. Thank you very much for joining us today. And we would also like to thank our attendees from the Taguig City Health Office, and also from the. We'd also like to thank the LGU's Health Office of Muntinlupa City. Ma'am Rachel and Ma'am Rowena, thank you also for your confirmation and for joining us today in our program. We would also like to thank also all our fellow public servants from the ranks of the LGOOs and from the other regional offices or municipal offices who we might not have acknowledged earlier. And definitely to all our medical experts and frontliners who have joined us in the past hour. I understand some of you had some difficulty entering because of connectivity issues, but you're just in time as we are about to listen to our first topic from Dr. Tagayuna.
Thank you very much, Sir Nico. And Dr. Pedrito Y. Tagayuna. Doctor, are we okay already for presentation? Dr. Tagayuna? I think Dr. Tagayuna is having some difficulty with the connection and with his presentation. Is it okay if we move forward, Sir Miko, with our second speaker?
Yes, Dr. Erica. So, in the meantime, while we are trying to sort out the technical difficulties for our first topic, we are, of course, fortunate to have our speaker for today regarding the topic of the depository system program of the city of Iligan in Isabela. The the speaker for today is no less than one of our esteemed government officials and beacon of local government unit excellence in this effort. We have no less than Mayor Jose Marie Diaz. Mayor Jose Marie Diaz is the mayor of Iligan City, Isabela, and he will talk about the depository system program which he has launched, innovated, and has made as a routine beacon of excellence in our convalescent plasma efforts and blood donation drives in the city of Iligan. He started his humble career as a dental consultant in Isabela State University, Iligan, Isabela, and his public career commenced in 2001 when he became the #1 elected municipal councilor of Iligan. From 2004 to 2006, he served as vice mayor of the then municipality of Iligan, Isabela. In 2006 until 2012, he served as the municipal mayor of Iligan. And in 2012, Mayor Diaz ran unopposed as a re-electionist on his third term from 2012 to 2016. He won as city mayor again in 2019. And apart from being the executive vice president of the League of Municipalities of the Philippines, Isabela chapter, among others as city mayor, he was awarded numerous accolades for his outstanding governance of the city of Iligan. Join me, everyone, in welcoming the father of the city of Iligan and the man who spearheaded the depository system program of Iligan, Isabela during the time of the COVID-19 pandemic. Yes, the Honorable Mayor Jose Marie Diaz of Iligan City, Isabela.
Iligan is nestled at the heart of Cagayan Valley, crisscrossed by the three biggest rivers, the Cagayan, the Pinakanawan, the Abuan River, and traversed by the longest mountain ranges of Sierra Madre. It is the fourth largest city in the country, and for component cities, it is the largest in terms of land area. It is also one of the most populous cities in Cagayan Valley, subdivided into 91 barangays. Delivery of services is sometimes cumbersome owing to its terrain and geographical locations, but the city government of Iligan is persistent in its effort to deliver the services needed by its people, wherever they are, whenever available. We have provided various programs to address the many concerns and needs of the people, from medical, health, social, educational, livelihood, employment, to infrastructure, tourism, agricultural, and economic. We tried every means possible to make both ends meet so that our people will not suffer and enjoy the convenience of living in the city of Iligan. Belonging to the medical profession, I envision to make the city government responsive to the medical and health requirements of my fellow Iliganos. We have launched various medical and health programs to provide Iliganos with the much needed services to make them cared and served. All of these were anchored on the principle I always lived by, Salvere Omnibus, good health for Iliganos. One of the many programs that we have established is the Iligan Blood Depository System, or iBloods program, where we envision to provide a steady source of blood for those who are always in need, especially during emergencies and outbreak of diseases like dengue. The program started in its simplest manner during my term as councilor in 2001, as I have observed the steady rising number of blood requests in the locality. This gave me the desire to provide the requirements with the purpose of giving them much hope to survive and to make available immediate source of blood during emergency situation. The iBloods program was designed to collect blood units through voluntary donations from civic-spirited individuals and volunteers and make it available to those who are in need. It aims to promote blood donation as a noble humanitarian act of every citizen. We began from tens, we progressed to hundreds, and to this date, we hit as high as 1,000 volunteers willing to donate their bloods in one day. The Bloods program was institutionalized first as an annual activity, which then became biannual, and in the last 5 years, we made it as a quarterly activity of the city government under General Ordinance number 45 series of 2005. In its first year of operation, the program was able to collect around 50 to 100 bags of bloods, and then it went on to around 250 to 400 in the next 5 years until it reached the 1,000 mark in the year 2018 and 2019. With these flourishing figures, we went on to break records after records, and even our own record were continuously broken by succeeding years of our operation. In 2018, we collected a total of 2,958 bags of blood. In 2019, we collected 3,404 bags. And in 2020, even while we were in pandemic, we were able to collect 1,116 bags. We have provided 2,326 bags of blood to 1,719 recipients in 2018, 1,886 bags provided to 735 recipients in 2019, and 868 bags to 325 recipients in 2020. As a result of our intensive blood donation drives, we were given the following awards and recognitions. Top 1, all-time bloodletting activity with inclusive years from 1999 to 2020 in Cagayan Valley. Top 1, most number of blood donors in one day in the Philippines. Rank 1, 2020 Top 10 bloodletting activity as of December 2020 in Cagayan Valley. Record-breaking number of blood collected in a day. In July 27, 2018, 1,000 blood donors blood collected, and in July 12, 2019, 1,408 blood donors blood collected. We were also awarded as the most outstanding LGU in blood donation program in Northern Luzon or Dugo Award. We were continuously awarded as outstanding LGU Dugo Awards in the regional level for almost every year since 2007. On every bloodletting occasion we held, we always enjoyed the participation of our 91 barangays to bring in as many volunteers they can get, most especially during our Blood Olympics, where we chose the top 3 barangays with the highest number of bloods donated with infrastructure projects amounting to 1 million pesos for the top donors, 750,000 for second placer, and 500,000 for third placer. To fully operationalize the conduct of the blood donation program, the city government of Iligan has been allocating around 5 million pesos every year, aside from the prizes given to top performing barangays. The iBloods program is not only about blood collected, but it is the spirit of volunteerism of the Ilagueño people. The support we received from the people in the barangay made it possible for us to succeed and improve and instill in each Ilagueño's heart the value of saving one's life. I felt a sense of fulfillment because my simple way of giving help and hope to our fellow Ilagueños became a grand program for the city of Iligan. The success of this program lies from the fact that many of my people believe in what they can do to save other people's lives and in our common desire to help each other in times of need. It is the hope of each one of us that no Ilagueño will suffer without feeling the help of our fellow Ilagueños. The program will continue to succeed because the principle that lies beneath the program makes it grow more and more. The enthusiasm of every Ilagueño to become a hero, to save lives, has been the foundation that makes this program weather the test of time. With or without pandemic, this program will continue because there will always be people who will need blood, and there are plenty of people willing to give them hope to survive. To the thousands of Ilagueños who shared their precious blood to save others, and the many men and women who rendered their time and effort to make this program happen and succeed. To all of you, thank you so much. We can do so much to make our fellow Ilagueños live with full of hope for the future. As one Ilagueño, we rise as one, we survive as one. Thank you, and to God be all the glory.
Thank you, Mayor Diaz, for such an inspiring speech. Moving on, our next topic is NVBSP and Convalescent Plasma Donation Program. We invited the Program Manager of the Department of Health's National Voluntary Blood Services Program, Ms. Marites B. Estrella. She is a dedicated public health servant committed in improving the health situation in the countries, particularly in blood safety. She is the alumnus of the Philomer Christian University, where she attained her nursing degree. She went to acquire 2 master's degree in management, master's degree in public administration and management at Philippine Christian University, and master's in development management in Asian Institute of Management. She has been with the Department of Health since 1997. Her public health career, specifically in blood safety for 20 years, is filled with impressive accomplishments, and among them is being the forefront public servant in the implementation of the Republic Act 7719, otherwise known as the National Blood Services Act of 1994, an act promoting voluntary blood donation, providing for an adequate supply of safe blood. Currently, she is managing the National Convalescent Donation Program of the Department of Health. Let us all welcome our next speaker, Ms. Marites Estrella.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me? Okay, so I was
Yes, loud and clear.
Yes, it was a privilege for the National Voluntary Blood Services Program to share about the both NBBSP and the Convalescent Plasma Donation Program. At the same time, our currently signed joint memo circular between DOH and the ILG. The outline of presentation is first, we will discuss the background, the adequacy, the Blood Services Network, DOH, the ILG Joint Memorandum Circular, and the foreseen developments. As a background, Paraan et al. Study in 1993 found out that the Philippine blood banking system is inadequate, unsafe, and wasteful. And only 3 out of every 10 Filipinos who need blood do not get it. And 7 out of every 10 units of blood transfused come from paid donors. And a paid donor is 3 times more likely to have any of the 4 blood transmissible diseases, such as malaria, hepatitis B, syphilis, and HIV, than a voluntary blood donor. And during that time, only 1 out of every 500 Filipinos are voluntarily donates blood. With this, The Republic Act 7719, otherwise known as the National Blood Services Act of 1994, was signed into law. It is an act promoting voluntary blood donation, providing for an adequate supply of safe blood. So, who are the implementers of this RA 7719? So, we have the tripartite implementing agencies, the Department of Health through the National Voluntary Blood Services Program, who is the policy-making body with the regulatory functions and, of course, the program management. We have also the Philippine Red Cross, focusing on advocacy of voluntary non-remunerated blood donation. And we have our educational arm, which is the Philippine Blood Coordinating Council. So our guide for implementations are, of course, the RA 7719. We have the NBBSP strategic plan, the issuances, the policies, and other administrative orders. Our manual of standards. Our national vision is safe blood for all, and we have a mission of a nationally coordinated and efficient networking of BSF based on voluntary blood donation that will ensure safe, adequate, timely, and accessible blood supply and the rational use of blood in the Philippines through advocacy, professional education, and research. So the question now for our country is the blood adequate? Our parameters for the whole country. This is the Bible of all our regional blood program coordinators and the donor recruitment officers. So we need to have recruitment of donors of at least 2% of the total population. And out of the 2% potential blood donors, we need to collect at least 1% of the total population. And we need to have a donor retention of at least 35%, which are repeat donors. And of course, as we all know, we need to have an evidence of local government chief executives' support for voluntary blood donation activities. So in 2019, if we can see, actually the program is mandated to have 100% voluntary blood donation. If you see the statistics, the voluntary blood donation as of CY 2019 is only 84%. And we still have family or replacement donation, which is 15.8%. And we still have paid donation of 0.01%, so 193 paid donors. So, but we already meet the target of 1% of the total population of the Philippines, which is 1,384,662. So what is our goal now is this 15.8% and 0.01% must be converted into voluntary blood donation in order for us to meet the target of 100% voluntary blood donation for the country. So for blood safety, we need to educate, motivate, recruit, and retain low-risk blood donors. And our priority should be given to elimination of family replacement, which are the hidden paid donors are actually connives with the relatives of the patient. And of course, there are still paid donor systems associated with a higher prevalence of transfusion transmissible infections. And we need to have or to focus on voluntary non-remunerated blood donors from low-risk population who give blood regularly are the foundation of a safe and adequate blood supply. of course, this is not, recruiting blood donors is not an easy task. We cannot get blood anywhere. We cannot just buy blood anywhere. So it is a collective effort of all the stakeholders to be successful in our voluntary blood donation program. So the question now, if the blood is adequate, is it accessible? So the voluntary blood donation program was mandated by the Republic Act 7719 under item or under Section 2, Item G. The DOH was mandated to establish and organize a national blood transfusion network. And we have to establish a blood centers strategically located in every province or regions nationwide. Okay. Now, our challenge now in the country is to balance the supply and the demand. For the supply side, especially during this pandemic, which is last year, and until now, which is the lean month period, which is January, our supply of blood tremendously actually decreased. So we need to really plan on the blood collection in the community because of this low supply of blood. And we need to know the right blood group, the right blood component at the right time, and it must be safe. So on the demand side, which is from the hospitals, where we transfuse blood to our patients right now, there's an increase in the demand of blood in our hospitals. So anytime, any place, and any quantity, and it must be safe, we should comply with the blood needs of our patients in the hospital. So this is our challenge now as implementers of this voluntary blood donation program and convalescent plasma donation program to balance the supply and the demand. Through this, we have also a department order that is already issued way back in 2010, organizing a local blood council in each locality that will support the regional blood services network. And a local blood council is encouraged to be formed in component cities, districts, municipalities, and barangays. The local blood council shall assist the local blood services networks in the public education, donor recruitment, and organization of MBDs, and providing human and financial resources. So that's why the Mayor of Bilagan is a very sustainable collection of blood coming from their communities for the city of Ilagan. With the signed memo circular dated August 6, 2020, guidelines on the advocacy, recruitment, and community mobilization for the local blood program and convalescent plasma donation program. So we are now enjoined to implement this joint memo circular. And actually last year, we already started doing the orientation to our regional blood program coordinators. So what is this joint DOH and DILG joint memo circular for? So first is, in response to the increasing number of COVID-19 cases worldwide, an investigational treatment is being explored with the use of convalescent plasma from recovered COVID-19 patients. Through this, the DOH issued a Department Memorandum Circular 2020-0216, the collection of convalescent plasma and networking of for therapeutic strategy for COVID-19. And we are tasked by the DOH Secretary of Health both the program and BBSP and the Philippine Blood Center to spearhead the convalescent donation program of the Department of Health. So we have to emphasize on this DILG Joint Memo Circular the promotion and encouragement of voluntary blood donation, mobilizing all sectors to participate in the voluntary and nonprofit collection of blood and plasma or convalescent plasma. And of course, to sustain this program, we need to have an allocation of appropriate funds for the local blood donation program and convalescent plasma donation program. To strengthen the local implementation in collaboration with the DILG, it is a vital role to enjoin the participation of all LGUs in the promotion, recruitment, and collection of safe and adequate blood, convalescent plasma, and of course, the whole blood donation. The objectives of this DILG and DOH joint memo circular is incorporating the convalescent plasma donation program with the existing local voluntary blood donation program on the LGU activities. So what are those activities? Of course, mainly on advocacy and recruitment of our volunteer blood donors in the community, both for conventional collection of whole blood donation and convalescent plasma. And next is we need to update our blood donor registry and registration of convalescent plasma volunteer donors. So for us to understand how this network will work in the community, the blood or convalescent plasma donation program is already existing. Actually, the blood donation network is already existing in each locality. We need to incorporate on this network the convalescent plasma donation network. So in the community, we have these people who may donate whole blood donation or convalescent plasma units to our blood service facilities. So we have the MBD teams coming from our blood service facilities who will be going to the community to collect blood. And that is through the effort of our local blood councils or other partner agencies, serving as the donor recruitment officers in collaboration with our LGUs. It might be our city blood program coordinator, municipal, down to the barangay blood program coordinator, because they are in charge of advocacy, recruitment, and community mobilizations. So altogether, the stakeholders will work together in order for them to recruit, educate, and retain our volunteer blood or convalescent plasma donors in the community. So all volunteer blood donors of convalescent plasma will go to our blood service facilities. It will be a hospital blood bank with additional functions or blood centers, blood station, or blood collecting units. Take note that our convalescent plasma donors will only go to our certified CP collecting facility. The allowed CP collecting facility is only the hospital blood bank with additional functions and the licensed blood centers. We need to note also that the Philippine Blood Center is the apex or the lead facility for our convalescent plasma donation program for the whole country. And also the Philippine Blood Center will also have a mandate to oversee our DOH blood centers or our blood service facilities in the country. So everybody who might have a lack of supply of blood or convalescent plasma units can contact our Philippine Blood Center for distribution of enough supply to wherever it is in the region. So this is how our network, blood network or convalescent plasma network will work together as a collective effort of all our stakeholders in the community with our blood service facilities. So for information of everybody, as of January, we have a total of 34 blood service facilities who submitted their intent to become CP collecting facilities, and we certified 11 blood service facilities as certified CP collecting facilities. 5 of them are for completion of documents, and 16 are still for ongoing assessment, and 2 facilities was able to cancel their application. Also, for the information of everybody, we have a total collection from June to January 4 from the convalescent plasma collection units. So we have 1,610 for both apheresis collection and whole blood collection. And for the total collection per blood type, medyo hindi po makita. So we have a total of, ilan yung total? 600. We have a total of 1,610. For the rules and responsibilities for the regional blood program coordinators, that is through the development management blood program point person, we have the existing LGU blood program coordinators that will also become our CP coordinators in the province and the city and in the municipal level. And also we have our local blood program coordinator at the local blood council level. And of course, we have the new designated partner from the DILG to be part of this program is our local government operations officers, which is at the regional, provincial, city, and the municipal level. So they will just join the existing designated LGU blood program coordinators in their locality, focusing on the implementation of advocacy, recruitment, and community mobilization through existing voluntary blood donation program and established of local blood council. Donor recruitment in the community for both voluntary blood donation and convalescent plasma donation program. So this is how the complex, the safe blood supply chain, where the LGUO who will assist the monitoring and compliance if and when our LGU coordinators are really collaborating or communicating within our networks. So we have our RBPC, the Regional Blood Program Coordinators, usually coordinates with the provincial, city, municipal, and down to the barangay blood coordinator for the info campaign and recruitment in the community level. So if and when they already recruited in the community, they will already communicate with our blood service facilities, would be the blood centers or hospital blood bank that will collect blood to our constituents in the community. So all blood units collected will go to our blood center for testing and processing. And then after that, it will be distributed to our hospital for transfusion. So the chain of communications, as you can see, the blue arrow, flow coordination, and the red arrow is the flow of blood supply. So RBPC and down to the barangay blood program coordinator will work together in order for them to ensure that they have enough supply of blood in the community as well as in terms of availability of convalescent plasma units for their constituents. So our foreseen developments for this year, we will have a series of regional orientation through the regional blood program coordinators in terms of the implementation of the joint memo circular, active participation of the LGUs in the implementation of the program through personal involvement and commitment in the implementation of the NBBSP, provision of resources in the implementation of NBBSP, being instrumental on the high percentage of voluntary blood donation relative to the total population. So our target is 1% of the total population. But in terms of CP or CP units, it depends on the needs of each specific geographical area. So it needs to be coordinated to our regions, and the regions will coordinate to the NBBSP or to the Philippine Blood Center. And then our LGUs or LCEs will have an approved administrative issuances in support of the NBBSP. And of course, we have an existing local blood council already, but for those who have none yet, we need to establish or reactivate a functional local blood council in their locality. And of course, we need to have an active collaborative participation on the blood services network meetings. And lastly, hopefully, we will talk this. This is under discussion with the DILG that we need to have a Sandugu Awards later on after this. Every year, actually, is our target. So we hope that we can work together. Whatever will be the situations this year again, but if we work together as one, we can achieve our target of 1% total population collection of blood, and the blood or the CP units needed by our COVID patients, especially those who are critically ill in the hospitals, in saving their lives. Maraming salamat po. So we go for 100% voluntary blood donation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Marites Estrella, for that very educative discussion. So, definitely we were able to have a good rundown of the policies, the basic protocol or the processes for how we're going about in our donation drives. And Dr. Erica, definitely not only did we learn so much from the discussion of Marites Estrella, but also we have seen how the discussion of LGU innovation and LGU implementation by Mayor Jose Marie Diaz of Ilagan. I apologize for my earlier mistake. Ilagan City, Isabela, was able to implement also a good framework for the LGUs to follow. At this juncture, we still have topics that will be discussed. Still have waiting for our COVID-19 convalescent plasma donation topic, which will be discussed by Dr. Tagayuna. And of course, later on, we will also have a discussion which Dr. Erica, it's not only from the LGU's point of view, and it's not only from voluntary blood donation, but we also have also our discussion to follow on the medical centers all around the country. And one such example later on would be from the Cagayan Valley Medical Center.
Yes, you're correct, Sir Miko. In this part, we would like to ask everyone, because after all the speakers discuss all their given their presentation, we will going to have an open forum. So we would like to encourage everyone, if you have other questions, please type it in the chat box. You will be able to see it. Or if you want, we can ask from live if anyone from the participants wants to say their questions. While waiting for the other speakers, I would like to ask if Dr. Taguyana, our first speaker, Doctor, are you okay na po ba tayo for the presentation? Or should we go to the next speaker? Actually, Sir Miko, as I was browsing the chat box, we have a lot of participants coming from different regions, even from the Visayas. Actually, this webinar is a 3-day webinar. So we also encourage other participants who wants to participate also in the next 2-day webinar, which is Visayas and the Mindanao cluster.
Yes, Dr. Erica. In fact, it's a very welcome development that despite informing our participants nationwide that there will be clustering done by regions or done by the major islands of the country, we still have crossovers of attendees or participants. And as discussed by our previous speakers, these are actually just models, and these are just guidance, examples of guidance for our participants today, which may be emulated, or if they're already implementing it in their respective offices, they might want to improve, or if they think that there is an aspect where they would like to explore what the city of Lagan or what the current blood donation drives have currently achieved, they might also want to bring that service to their people and with their expertise already. Also going over the attendance, Dr. Erica, yes, our attendees actually are very participative, and some have already expressed their desire to get a copy of the presentations of our speakers. So definitely a fruitful discussion so far.
Yes, we will be posting this in our DILG Facebook page after all the webinars are finished. For the meantime, I would like to take this opportunity to thank our participants who is now with us. From the participants in DOH Masbate, Region 4A Laguna, Navotas City Hospital, Marinduque Provincial Hospital, Science City of Muñoz Region 3, DILG Region 4A, Tingloy, Batangas, Navotas City Health Office, NCR, St. Louis University Hospital of the Sacred Heart, Baguio City, Benguet, Car. Region 4, Calabarzon, DILG Ibaan, Batangas, Region 4A, Philippine Information Agency, NCR, Occidental Mindoro, San Jose, Region 4B, DILG Occidental Mindoro, Rizal Medical Center, Barangay San Rafael, Montalban, Rizal, Bustos, Bulacan, Las Piñas General Hospital and Satellite Trauma Center. Okay, so super dami ng participants natin for today. I believe our next speaker is now ready. Okay, moving forward, the topic this afternoon, the speaker will talk about the best practices on implementing the voluntary blood donation program of Cagayan Valley Medical Center. And our speaker is Mr. Ulysses M. Santiago, RN, MAN. Mr. Santiago is the subsection head of donor advocacy, Retention and Care of Cagayan Valley Medical Center, Blood Bank Section. He is in the blood program for 12 years now and attended several seminars and consultative meetings. He is the Secretary of the Northern Blood Services Zone and the Document Control and Custodian Officer of HBTC of the above-mentioned hospital. Let us now welcome our next speaker, Mr. Ulysses Santiago.
Good afternoon. In behalf of the top management of Cagayan Valley Medical Center, headed by Dr. Glenn Matthew Bagao, our Medical Center Chief, Dr. Cherry Lu Antonio, our Chief Medical Professional Staff, and of course the head of the blood bank, Dr. Sarah Jean Balisi, I would like to extend our gratitude in choosing practices in our institution regarding the implementation of a voluntary blood program. So to start with, Cagayan Valley Medical Center is located at Carig Sur, Tuguegarao City, Cagayan. Just to give you an overview how our blood bank works, there are four subsections in our area, namely the donor advocacy, retention, and care, which were manned by registered nurses. So we are responsible in performing donor interview, pep talks during mobile blood donations, and pre and post donation counseling. Next is the community blood services subsection. They are the ones who go out and reach our communities to conduct mobile blood donations. Another subsection is the hospital blood services. So their function is the core of the blood bank. They perform cross-matching, blood typing, and other blood transfusion-related activities. And the last subsection is the donor screening. Their duty is the most vital because they perform the 5 transfusion-transmitted infections of our blood units. So just to give you an idea of how far we deliver our services, the Cagayan Valley Medical Center is the acting blood center of the Northern Blood Services Zone. 74 municipalities are under our care, 26 of which are under Cagayan, except Santa Praxedes and Claveria, because the proximity of these two municipalities are near to Ilocos. 27 from Isabela, 8 from Kalinga, 7 from Apayao, and 6 from Batanes. Luckily, the classification of Batanes General Hospital is now blood bank with additional functions. So this is how it looks like of how we deliver our services. And of course, we also cater blood needs outside our zone. Cagayan has 22 active blood service facilities under our network. Isabela Province has 21 active blood service facilities. Kalinga has 9, Apayao has 3, and Batanes has 1. Our next slide will be our annual total blood collections from 2015 up to last year. As you can see, from 2015 up to 2019, it's increasing, giving an average of at least 10% increase per year. But unfortunately, our 2020 census went down to 20,612 blood donors because of the pandemic. Excuse me. Following the interim guidelines on conducting mobile blood donation, we were able to resume conducting MBDs. Unfortunately, we still have family donations that is about 11%. We cannot avoid this during lean months and other circumstances. But rest assured that we are doing our best to achieve 100% voluntary non-remunerated blood donations. Next slide. To support the increase of our collections, we need to intensify our campaign and do some strategies to promote voluntary blood program in our zone. In the advent of technology nowadays, text brigade is the most useful method, especially now with our present condition. Reminding them of their next donation is very useful in recalling our regular donors. Because sometimes, because of their busy schedule, they forgot when will be their next donation. And of course, the use of social media like Facebook and Instagram is very useful in this time of age. We also do courtesy calls to our newly elected officials to promote the blood program and include this in their agenda. IEC during school gatherings and during meetings of the Association of Barangay Captains is of great help in inculcating in their minds that voluntary blood donation should be a way of life. We also instructed those blood service facilities affiliated in our network to post campaign materials in their respective area. For the continuation, we included in our checklist during the visit before issuing certificate of inclusion for those blood service facilities under our network, they must sponsor at least one mobile blood donation activity. This strategy will somehow help with the augmentation of blood demands in our region. But if they can sponsor more than one, it would be better. Aside from the regular MBDs we conduct in every barangay and municipalities, we also conduct municipal blood Olympics, wherein every barangay in a certain municipality will bring as much blood donors to represent their barangay. This is usually a 2 or 3 days activity which they have to cluster those barangays who will donate during the first day of activity and cluster again for the next day. So this is somehow a sort of a competition. And the barangay with the most number of donors will be given cash prize, which will be utilized as a livelihood program or a recognition which will be awarded after the event. But of course, we also see to it the quality of blood and the safety of our donors are being considered. We also send letters to inactive municipalities and institutions that temporarily stop embracing the blood program. So all in all, no, I still have one. The commitment and strong support of every blood service facilities is very important. Next slide, we also do zonal Sandugo recognition and awarding ceremonies. This is to acknowledge our unsung heroes for their noble act. Our Rh negative registry is also updated if in case a patient needs this rare blood type. And of course, appearance to our local television to promote the blood program. So these are all our efforts in promoting the voluntary non-remunerated blood donations in the Northern Blood Services Zone. For the slides, I will show to you how we conduct and celebrate World Blood Donor Day in our area. Last 2009, we conducted Kalesacade, where kalesas were decorated in accordance to the theme and toured around the city. It was participated by different institutions, both government organizations and non-government organizations. The best three dress kalesa were given cash prize as a recognition for their efforts. In 2011, we had our Zumba and poster making contest. In 2012, we had our fun run. House mobile blood donation activity was our event last 2013, while last 2014 we decided to recognize our walk-in blood heroes by organizing an awarding ceremony solely for them. In 2015, we had our fun run and Zumba to promote healthy lifestyle among our donors. And in 2016, we decided to have video advertisement making contest. So all the entries that were submitted during the contest are being used as a campaign material during mobile blood donations or played at the blood banks during collections or at the waiting area. And last 2017, we conducted poster and slogan making contests relevant to the theme. So all in all, these are all our activities during the celebration of World Blood Donor Day. For the next slide, each municipality, barangays, and institutions has a designated blood coordinator who shall be the focal person who is responsible in scheduling mobile blood donation activity and other concerns relating to the blood program. So basically, they were also trained as donor recruitment officer with, of course, the help of Cagayan Valley Center for Health Development. To instill in their minds and hearts the importance of voluntary blood donation and their commitment in supporting the goals of National Voluntary Blood Services Program, every member of the blood service facility signed a pledge of commitment to the blood program. Putting a gimmick every Valentine's Day can also be a strategy to increase your pool of blood. We decorated the phlebotomy area, and as a token to our donors, we give chocolates as a sign of gratitude. Next slide. Our network is called CICAB Network. CIKAB is the initial of the 5 provinces that is under our zone. C is for Cagayan, I is Isabela, K is Kalinga, A is Apayao, and B for Batanes. So each blood service facility has a designated representative who shall represent their hospital during CICAB meetings and other related activities. So our CICAB network is an established organization working collaboratively for the provision of safe and adequate blood supply in the region, enhancement of quality of blood services and blood banking, addresses concerns about blood and other related issues, and formulation of policies and guidelines to guide every member of the network to work systematically. And for my last slide, I would like to share this quote to you. Commitment and strong support from the local government units, government organizations, non-government organizations, civic organizations, schools, and universities is definitely needed for the voluntary blood system to succeed. Thank you for listening, and may we all have a great day ahead of us.
Thank you very much, Mr. Santiago, for truly your selflessness and your very informative discussion has truly inspired all of us. And at this juncture, we will first have an earlier take of our open forum. So, how we will go about this? We asked everybody, preferably from the get-go upon registering, to send any questions you might have in advance for the topics and for our speakers for today. And also, there were questions that were raised, or there may be questions that you would like to further raise in our chat box. And we will definitely raise these questions. We will also give an opportunity for these questions to be discussed by our speakers today. So, to begin, one of the questions that was directly submitted to us, how could we avail or how can we have access to the convalescent blood products, particularly plasma? So for our speakers, Mr. Santiago or Ms. Estrella, um, who would like to answer that question po? Again, how can we avail or how can we have access to the convalescent blood products, particularly plasma? I think this is an applicable question also for both the DILG, LGOOs, for the LGUs, and for our other health officials or health institutions.
Okay, from what place did the questions came from? What region?
We're tracing the question lang po, ma'am.
Okay. We have, it depends to the scenario, no? Scenario 1 is if and when the the needed units of plasma is coming from the NCR region. In the NCR, we have plenty of certified collecting facility. So, but the main bulk is coming from the Philippine Blood Center and the Philippine National Red Cross in the NCR. But if and when the needed convalescent plasma units coming from other regions wherein there are no existing certified convalescent plasma facility yet, they should coordinate to their designated lead blood service facility where, for example, the patient is admitted to a certain hospital. That certain hospital will coordinate to their lead blood service facility that they need the convalescent plasma units. And the lead blood service facility will now coordinate with the certified collecting facility. So the certified collecting facility has also different requirements. So they have to coordinate with the attending physician of the patients, need to coordinate with the head of the CP collecting facility. So there are requirements that these two doctors need to discuss in terms of availability and accessibility of convalescent plasma units. Is that clear? So for example, it happens in Davao or Cebu. There's no available certain blood type of convalescent plasma units in the area. And they need, for example, type A. But there's no type A. So they coordinate to us here in Philippine Blood Centers or in the Philippine Red Cross. So what we did is to shift the plasma through airlines. But during the pandemic, we request the the C-130 to bring the plasma units to the regions, for example, in Davao or in Region 7. That is in a worst case scenario where there are lockdowns, there's no available vehicle or airlines. So we still have access to ask help from our military or armed forces of the Philippines or OCD. So is that clear? You can have a follow-up question if you want some more details on that. And of course, that will be discussed also by Dr. Bobong later on his presentation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. So for that follow-up question po, it was from Carpo, from Miss Lucia Benter, who asked po regarding access for convalescent plasma or plasma per se. Her follow-up question is, may they know which blood facility is certified to Baguio, Benguet, or to the CAR region po?
None yet. There's no facility in the CAR region that submitted their intent to become a CP collecting facility. I think there is one, a DOH hospital, which is the Baguio General Hospital and Medical Center. But the license actually for the last year, CY 2020, ends by December. So this January, they need to reapply. So for the CY 2021 certification. So I think they will reapply for the CAR region, the Baguio General Medical Center. So you can access CP units to that hospitals actually. And if and when in CAR region there is a lack of certain blood types of CP units, the Baguio General Medical Center will call the Philippine Blood Center for help for that certain blood type of units needed by the patients. So we have already an existing network of blood service facilities.
Thank you very much, Miss Estrella. And of course, for any follow-up questions, Ma'am Benter, you can definitely send it here, or you can also submit once again your questions. For our next question po, but I think it's more of a request than a question. But just so our speakers know, there's a humble request by our participants if they can have an updated list with the contact numbers of where they can access the convalescent blood products so that their BSFs can source to them. So
Actually, it was posted on our social media, the DOH and the NBBSP. We have different types of posters already posted where to call to donate. And also, of course, if you donate on that facility, of course, they have an available plasma units. But that's our the encouragement right now for the CP collecting facility. It's more on we cannot give if we cannot if we do not have COVID-19 recovered patients that will donate blood on this facility. So ang na-notice po namin is that mas marami po ang nagre-request kaysa yung nagdo-donate. So it's really difficult to encourage or to recruit. That's why that's why the purpose of this joint memo circular is we need to help each other to identify our COVID recovered patients and then refer them to our facilities to donate their plasma. So if and when they have difficulties in the transportation, they can also send message to those numbers that will be provided in the posters or in the social media to for the transport services to and from their residence and to the blood service facilities. And a reminder, for the access, for example, if your patients need plasma units, it's not the relatives of the patient who will ask or call the Philippine Blood Center. It should be the blood bank or the blood service facilities who will call, because there are so many technicalities or technical requirements that only medical or technical people can answer and not those layman individual. They cannot understand. So we usually encourage blood center or BSF to BSF communications or coordinations and not with the relatives of the patient. But if you want to donate plasma, then the donor can directly call us or any certified CP facility in the country. So if we have 11, so we will hopefully this CY 2021 it will increase, and we will update because we can come up with a directory, no, for the blood donors, for the plasma donors to donate. But usually these facilities, one of their concern is mostly ang tumatawag po sa kanila ay yung gustong mag-access doon sa plasma units rather than to donate. So, yun po yung concern nila sa amin ngayon. But then, if that's the case, in our policy, it must be BSF to the hospitals where the patient is admitted will communicate the needed plasma units for the patient.
Thank you very much, Ms. Estrella. I think there were also questions submitted to Dr. Erica, so I'll also allow her to facilitate with those questions.
Yes, thank you, Miko. We have a question coming from Region 3, Central Luzon, Municipality of Lupao, Nueva Ecija. This question is, pursuant to DOH AO 2010-002, a local blood council is encouraged to be formed in component cities, districts, municipalities, and barangays. My question is, how would the agency monitor its functionality? Ms. Marites?
Hello? Okay, sorry. So, for the monitoring or the establishment of local blood council, it should be coordinated with our designated. In all regions, we have our regional blood program coordinators. And the regional blood program coordinators are the orchestrator of the whole activities of voluntary blood donation in the regions. At the same time, they need to include now the convalescent plasma donation program. So if it was included in their monitoring if and when the local blood council is functional or not. Mostly our local blood council, the members are coming also from our LGUs or even spearheaded by our local chief executives. So these LGUs are closely coordinating with our blood coordinators from the barangay, city, municipal, and provincial. And then they will go up reporting with our regional blood program coordinators. So the RBPCs are the ones who will monitor for the implementation of the program in each regions. But the designated LGU coordinators will also be reporting to our regional blood program coordinators. Some of the regions, they have their semi-annual or quarterly coordination meeting or blood services network meeting. And local blood councils are included if and when this local blood council is functional. But the problem sometimes is the local blood council is not functional anymore. So they need to reactivate in order for the local blood council to be again active in the network. And the one who will orchestrate that or to guide them also is our regional blood program coordinator.
Okay, thank you for that, Ma'am Marites. There's another question coming from Region 4A, Calabarzon, San Pedro, Laguna. Ano po ang tamang procedure sa pag-request ng dugo?
Is that a plasma or a whole blood? Because we have different policies or different requirements. If it is convalescent plasma units or if it is blood, whole blood products or PAC RBC. Because the new products right now with this pandemic is the convalescent plasma. So we need to clarify if it is a conventional blood product or the convalescent plasma.
Maybe this person, ma'am, is pertaining maybe to blood. Or maybe we can also say the procedure on how to request for this convalescent plasma.
Okay, for convalescent plasma, if and when in a certain hospital there is COVID patients that need plasma units, the documents required for request of availability of convalescent plasma is of course the blood request or if they have an existing CP request form. That hospital where the patient is admitted, they should have an approved treatment protocol. And of course, they have also a prioritization protocol and the clinical abstract. So those are the requirements for you to avail the convalescent plasma units. While for the conventional plasma units, and of course, for the Philippine Blood Center procedures pala, the attending physician will coordinate to the head of the blood bank or the blood center. So it should have a coordination between the two. As they will discuss the status of the patients and other medical conditions of the patients that requires transfusion for the plasma units. While for the conventional, I think that was already a long, long time ago. We have already the usual requirements is, of course, the blood bank to blood bank communication. There should be a direct distribution system actually in our blood and blood products. And the standard requirements always is of course the signed blood request. And it should using our standardized blood request form from the physician of the patient. So we don't entertain now because we have a policy also in the DOH that the relatives of the patients must not be the one who will communicate to the blood bank or to the blood center for the blood needs of their patient. It should be the staff of the blood bank or hospital blood bank communicating the blood service facility or the blood centers for the blood needs of the patient. So
Okay, thank
we
you.
have
Yes.
okay for the one who questions that we have a department circular 2018-0406. So you can have that procedures written on that department circular.
Okay, thank you po, ma'am. Another question coming from Region 3, Central Luzon, City of Malolos, Bulacan. How many days does COVID-19 recovered patient can donate his or her convalescent plasma?
Actually, that mapipreempt ko yung lecture ni Dr. Bobong, ano. So, I think for in fairness kay Dr. Bobong, can we wait for his lecture first because that will be discussed in details on his slides.
Okay, sige po, ma'am. We have another question coming from Region 8, Eastern Visayas, Maslog, Eastern Samar. For DOH AO 2010-002, there is the so-called Local Blood Council. How is this related or how does it collaborate to the PNRC, which has also a blood bank and more or less similar functions?
Related to PNRC, Local Blood Council is different. If we say it's a PNRC or Philippine Red Cross or PRC, I think we are talking about the blood service facility. With the Blood Council, we are talking about an organization of different stakeholders. It might be coming from LGUs, from other support groups, from churches, from universities, different members in the media, from all over the community members. So it's a multi-stakeholders organization, yung organization po ng Local Blood Council. So it's different when we are talking from the facility of Philippine Red Cross because Philippine Red Cross are more on, of course, recruitment, collection, and dispense of blood also. So it's an operations of the blood services. While the Local Blood Council, it's more on community organizing or mobilization of people to organize advocacy, recruitment, come up with advocacy materials like flyers, media, plugs, etc. in order to support the the activity of the community in towards the 100% voluntary blood donation in collaboration with our blood service facilities will collect blood in the community and test blood and process blood in order for those blood units will go to our hospital for our patients for transfusion. So it's a different structure actually from the Red Cross. It's a multi-sectoral group yung ating local blood councils.
Okay,
But
one
if
more
they
question.
want,
Yes.
I think if it's in Malolos, Bulacan, the question is from Malolos, Bulacan. So if it's in Malolos, Bulacan, Bulacan is very active in the implementation of voluntary blood donation program. And actually, they are one of the pioneer in the establishment of the local blood council from the province down to the barangay. They are very active in terms of establishment and the functionality of local blood council is very active. Their local chief executives are also very supportive in the establishment or supporting the local blood donation program in their province.
My apologies, ma'am. The question came from Region 8, Eastern Visayas.
If it's Eastern Visayas, I think they have also an organized local blood council. Sometimes in the local blood council, actually the blood services, like for example, Philippine Red Cross is part of the member of the local blood council and the other facilities. And the local government units and of course the others partner agencies in their locality are also members. So it's a multi-sectoral group. And of course, Red Cross is included there because of their participations in mobile blood collection activities also.
Okay. Sige po, ma'am. There's another question coming from Region 2, Cagayan Valley, Batanes. What are the specific roles of DILG field officers and local government units?
As discussed sa ating joint memo circular, the LGOO because this is the first time that we put really in writing in the policies of the joint memo circular and later on to our succeeding issuances in the Department of Health for the National Voluntary Blood Services Program. We are privileged and thankful that this local government operations officer will now be part of our partner in the implementation of the program. So how can we involve them or how can we let them be on board on our program? So this LGO, as I asked from the ILG, they have the regional, provincial, city, and municipal LGOs. As you can remember, our designated we have designated LGU coordinators from the province, city, municipal, down to the barangay. Not unless for those other regions that they don't have any designated LGU blood program coordinators. So in a specific LGU blood coordinators, the LGU now will, as mentioned here in our joint memo circular, will assist the monitoring of compliance. So monitoring of compliance to what? Of course, in the implementation of this joint memo circular, each of our coordinators stated specifically what are the roles and responsibilities. So specific to the roles and responsibilities, mostly are support in the advocacy and recruitment, adopting ordinances, and also formulate strategic plan, providing financial support, and of course, encouraging our local chief executives to be involved in our program, like in example in the city mayor of Ilagan. So those were the things that the LGUO will look into. So, but of course, one of the parameters are you need to see to it that our LGU coordinators really work. They you check if and when they collected blood 1% of the total population of their area or their area of, of jurisdiction. For example, in one municipality, they have this X millions or X thousands of population. 1% of that, they need to collect blood on that community. So in coordination with their blood service facility. So those four parameters that I showed on the slides in my presentation, those were the things that the LGUO will monitor also if these LGU blood program coordinators really work into those four parameters. So I think with the DILG through the Office of Yusek Echeverry, we need to come up siguro another issuance na lang. Or I can share the existing issuance, what are the indicators or parameters that the LGUO will look into in terms of the implementation of the program or the CP program in the LGU.
Sige po, ma'am.
Yes, thank you very much, Ms. Australia. Doc Erica, on my end also, we had questions rin submitted during registration. And I think one of the salient questions from the recent discussions ni Ms. Australia would be, would there be new protocols for the blood donation per se if or when the COVID vaccines become available? So, otherwise stated, kung yung current process po natin, Ma'am Estrella, are in place, paglabas po ba ng COVID vaccines, will we have to change paano po ginagawa yung regular na bloodletting natin? The question is from Mimaropa, Oriental Mindoro po.
Actually, what we are preparing right now for an issuance for signature already of our Undersecretary of Health is the what we will do for in terms of the blood donation for those COVID recovered patients donors. They want to donate whole blood donations. So actually, there is already standards coming from the World Health Organization, and we will adapt on that. So for the vaccines, that is again new. We are now exploring for what is the WHO standards or CDC standards in terms of that, because in our existing guidelines, there are already from A to C. If and when the persons or the potential blood donors receive vaccines, there are already a deferral period. So for the vaccination of COVID-19, we still have to seek guidance also from the World Health Organizations or CDC on that. But we are already preparing the issuance because soon, of course, we here in the Philippines will already start vaccination of individuals, and that again will create deferrals for our blood donors. If the deferrals, for example, is 1 year, then we all know that there will be a big problem in terms of the adequacy of blood supply and access to blood supply. And then what's next? What is our plan? So we need to have a plan on that. So it's already on our table, and hopefully this January we can already issue related issuance on that kind of situations for our country. But hopefully next week we can disseminate already the other issuance that was already guided from WHO, but it's a different scenario. It's not regarding the vaccines yet. For the vaccines, soon, if we receive already an advice, then we will also issue another issuance to that effect.
Thank you very much, Ms. Estrella. Our next question is also coming from Mimaropa. I think this is more of a specific case from a specific individual, and I think this was just brought to our attention by Mimaropa Occidental Mindoro. So the person's case is as follows. He or she is asking for advice. If that person can participate to donate, even if the person is currently in Mindoro province, he or she was already refused from donating blood, which was supposed to be for that person's father. So what would be the remedy? Or how can that person prove that person is healthy for donating blood, even after having gone out for the province during the last 6 months?
I think that will be answerable with our new guidelines or issuance that will be out hopefully next week. But the scenario that he is asking is more on is that if and when he's coming from Manila and then go to Mindoro to donate blood for his father.
The person is currently po in Mindoro.
Okay.
But is trying to donate blood. However, since he had made travel outside from within the last 6 months, he is being refused blood donation.
We should still follow our standard protocol. Of course, the LGU, for example, where the patient is or where our standard protocol is to, of course, to quarantine first, di ba? And you have also a swab result of the person. But if and when that scenario happens, I think the appropriate steps is that to ask help for the hospital blood bank where the patient is admitted. Diba? Kasi yun yung immediate na baka may available naman na certain blood type for the patients. And there's no need for you directly to donate blood for your father if there are some other requirements that your locality or the hospitals required you to donate because it takes time and your father needs already a transfusion. So the purpose of having a blood bank in the hospital is in order for us during emergencies also, the hospitals must have an enough supply of blood. If and when there is no available supply of blood, then the hospital blood bank will be the one to network with other blood service facilities and not the relatives of the patient. If and when the son or that person wants to donate, then he needs to adhere to the protocol first before insisting to donate for her father because that is already a directed donation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much po. From one of our participants po in our webinar, from Ms. Mercedes Nepomuceno, please correct me na lang if I might have given a wrong detail here. But the question pertains to the transfusion of blood to a patient. Her question is, will it affect the recipient in case blood units obtained from an asymptomatic donor is transfused to a patient?
I think that will be answered by Dr. Bobong later on. Kasi it's more on related on convalescent plasma transfusion, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. So for the question of Ms. Nepomuceno, we will raise that question if we have the time when Dr. Tagayuna should open his discussion for questions, if there be any. Otherwise, questions po that we have not been able to raised so far, or we might have not seen in the chat as Dr. Erica and I were moderating the forum, we will be able to request if there are any possible responses, or otherwise if there would be yung issuances tulad nga po ng GMC natin or to our current guidelines, which Ms. Estrella makes reference to. We might be able to give for future guidance, not only for Luzon, but again for tomorrow's cluster, Visayas cluster, and for Mindanao cluster. They might have the same questions as well, or they might request the same reference for policy or guidance. For our next question, Ms. Estrella, and I think this is something that pertains to both convalescent plasma and to blood, but within the situation of the pandemic, from Region 5, Bicol Region, Goa, Camarines Sur, is blood safe for an infant who had or who has severe COVID-19 disease? So for both convalescent plasma, but I think again this would be reserved for Dr. Tagayuna. But what about blood raw po? For blood donation, would donated blood be safe for an infant who had or who has severe COVID-19 disease?
Actually, that's the reason why the attending physician of the patient and the blood center health will coordinating each other, because they need to understand or to have a dialogue in terms of what is the real situation of the patient, and vis-a-vis with the risk of transfusion or transfusing the patient with blood. So it's a discussion between the attending physician and the blood bank head or the blood center head. So there are some risks, but they need to really weigh what is good for the patient. Of course, their number one goal is to save the patient's lives. So they need to really consider that. But for it depends, because there are levels of how critical is critical. So only the attending physicians and the blood bank heads can have a dialogue or discussion on those situations, because there are underlying factors that they need also to consider. But maybe Dr. Tagayuna can add on that also later on if they have experience on that kind of situations for neonatal patients that needs transfusion of convalescent plasma unit or whole blood units.
Thank you, Ma'am Estrella. So now we have questions which were submitted also, which now go to the content and to the guidance of the GMC, and from DOHAO 2010-0002. The first question is, what are the new strategies, or what are the recommended practices on donor recruitment during the pandemic? So ano po siguro yung mga best practices, or what are the developing strategies na so far gumagana recently, and what have been encouraging people to be partaking of our blood donation program?
Okay, so is that a question from what region?
Ma'am, question po from Region 4A, Calabarzon, Cavite po.
Okay, so if that's coming from our LGU, I think later on we will invite our LGUs and LGOs if we have our webinar in terms of how our blood service facilities and blood centers and donor recruitment officers face all these challenges in terms of recruitment and collection of blood during the pandemic. So last year we have that already. What are their best practices on facing the COVID-19 pandemic while addressing the blood needs of all our patients in the hospital? So mostly, majority of them, of course, safety first. We have protocols, and we need also to look into our frontliners. So when we say frontliners, all those our staff from the recruitment side and the mobile blood donation team that is really protected against COVID-19. So at first during the ACQ or MECQ, what we did is, of course, all of the people are afraid of going out to their homes.
Yeah.
So, and then majority of our, not only majority, but all the schools, our companies, etc., are closed down. So what they did is, and even us, even if we are not in the operations, all of our staff are repurposed. When we say repurposed, for those other who have assigned to other tasks that is not yet be implemented because of the pandemic, so we repurpose them to recruit our volunteer blood donors by phone, by text, by social media, etc. So it's good that our regular volunteer blood donors are answering to our crusade against COVID-19 for us to have just enough supply of blood for our patients. So they because they have no vehicles, there's no available vehicles during that time. So, meron kaming hatid sundo, no? Hatid sundo program for our volunteer blood donors. We even provided QR pass for our volunteer blood donors. And what also we did is, unlike in other regions, Metro Manila is our number one, no, na marami tayong COVID-19 patients dito. So all of our hospitals are packed with COVID-19 patients. So what we did is to ask help from other regions outside Metro Manila to bring or to send blood units here in Metro Manila through C-130 kasi wala rin eroplano, di ba? So that's to answer the needs of the patients here in Metro Manila. The same is true if, for example, Davao is the one who is number one now in the number of cases. And of course, the blood needs also is very challenging. The blood requirement is very challenging to assess too. If and when our blood center had a problem in terms of access and supply of blood in that region, then Metro Manila or in the Bicol region or in other regions or even in Cotabato can send blood units to Davao region. So that is the essence of blood services network. So we help each other in times of this pandemic. So it depends where is the situation is. So if there is a high incidence of COVID in that area, I will alert, being the National Blood Program Coordinator, I will alert already for those who have less cases of COVID with high collection of blood to help Davao, for example, in addressing their blood needs. So also with the COVID, with the plasma units, we actually send, the Philippine Blood Center actually sends 17 units of convalescent plasma in Davao region. So to start with, to have a stock level in the Davao region. But for now, they are already active in collecting convalescent plasma in the region. So all our blood coordinators or blood bank heads, 24/7, they are also communicating with me if they have issues or concern in terms of supply of blood.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the actually the whole discussion for the previous half hour. No, all our questions actually ranging pa nga from local government services or yung local government participation and to our local blood institutions and blood centers were all answered by Ms. Estrella. So thank you very much for the very informative discussion. In fact, some of the lengthy discussions, you had to go through them po, and we definitely appreciate not only your discussion but also your sharing of expertise. For our question from NCR Muntinlupa, as recommended by Ms. Estrella, since we have a discussion and it's very timely because our next speaker will be discussing anything and everything under the sun actually regarding convalescent plasma collection. I think this question hopefully will be addressed within the presentation, but of course, if there is a follow-up, it can be entertained later po, Ms. Rosas, in the chat later on. So again, allow me to introduce our next speaker is actually going to be discussing one of the highlights, if not the meat, of our national efforts as regards convalescent plasma and blood donation. So in convalescent plasma collection, we are definitely honored and no less blessed than to be graced by the man who spearheaded this effort on a nationwide scale and definitely spearheaded this effort in the Department of Health. Again, let us welcome everybody, Dr. Pedrito Y. Tagayuna, the head of the Philippine Blood Center.
Thank you, Dr. Robert. My apologies because I had to leave because we started a little late and I have a MANCO meeting and we're talking about our WFP, which is almost deadline. Okay, so I'll do this quickly, but nevertheless, I'll go through the details. Okay. Yeah. I have no financial disclosure or conflicts of interest with the materials that I'm going to present this afternoon. Okay. SARS-CoV-2 respiratory virus, which is a new virus, and it is causing the ongoing pandemic, the coronavirus disease of 2019. On January 30, we had our first reported case in the Philippines, who was a Chinese citizen, a tourist in the Philippines. And like almost 2 months after that, on March 7, our first recorded local transmission. 4 days after that, WHO declared COVID-19 as a pandemic. And as of yesterday, we had reported cases of 479,693 and 9,321 of them actually died. And the recovered number of cases is 448,375. But the world actually has 86,806,642 cases and positive cases, and almost 2 million died already. Currently, we don't have an established treatment. So what we have are medications, drugs that are in the investigational stage. So, as in many pandemics in the past, like the Spanish flu in the early 1900s, SARS-CoV-1, okay, MERS-CoV, Ebola virus, the rest are actually outbreaks. Early in the emergence of that disease, there is no treatment. Okay, that's why we use an old treatment, which is a convalescent plasma. Okay, convalescent plasma is a passive therapy, meaning a plasma from a recovered patient is being transfused to a patient having an active disease. The timing of administration will actually depend on the protocol that's being used with the institution. Later we'll talk about that. Okay. It is an investigational treatment. It is a treatment. It is a form of transfusion. So it has complications that are similar to transfusing blood products, because this is a blood product. Okay. Specific for COVID-19 transfusion, we'll have theoretical. Well, I label this as downsides because we don't have at least in my readings, we don't have reported cases of really patients transfused with convalescent plasma having an attenuated immune response, meaning mas lumala, no? Kasi halo-halo na rin ang treatment. But I would like to mention this, that TRALI, this is a transfusion-related acute lung injury, because we're transfusing a plasma product. Okay? It happens in other plasma product, not just for COVID-19 convalescent plasma. So TRALI is a disease wherein there is an anti-HLA in the transfused product, and it happens that the recipient receiving that the convalescent plasma has the antigen, and there will be a reaction. It is an acute lung injury. So this is something that we want to avoid, because SARS-CoV-2 is a respiratory virus. Now, I had this made a representation of the COVID-19 immune response. No, we actually don't have, as far again as my readings, no established curve of the immune response specific to COVID-19. But this is a typical immune response of an infection. Okay, so you can see there that there are three lines. Okay, the blue line there represents SARS-CoV-2 RNA. That is the viral element that's causing the disease. The green line is representing IgM, or the immune globulin M antibody, and the red line is the IgG antibody. And the line at the x-axis represents the days from the infection. Okay, so the blue line here, as I've mentioned, is so small. The blue line is at day 0, that is the time of infection. It gradually multiplies, and the level inside the body goes up. Okay? And usually the symptom starts at day 5 or after day 5, and then going up the viral load here up to around day 15. That is the peak of the viral load in a patient. Okay? The peak of the viral load, that will be followed by the decline. Why is there a decline? Because that's also the start where the IgG antibody and the IgM antibody are both acting already on the virus. It's going down. Okay? The green line here is the IgM. You've heard about IgM. This appears early in the disease. That's why when you have IgM and you have IgG, you are still early in the disease, in the acute phase of the disease. Okay? That's why they use this as a marker that you're having the infection. IgG appears just around or just before day 15. Okay? When IgG starts to appear, as I've said earlier, there is now the start of recovery because the viral load is already increasing. This is typical of an infectious immune response of an infection. Okay? So the red line here goes up, that's the IgG, and no, the purple shaded area here, this is what we call the convalescence period. So you might be asking me, if this is the convalescence period, there's still virus in the body. Okay, two things. Yes, there is virus in the body, but it is a respiratory virus. So, and it's proven, or in many papers it's published, COVID-19 or SARS-CoV-2 cannot be transmitted by blood. Okay, but in I think Mrs. Shirley already discussed a little about this. At this point, we don't extract convalescent plasma. We extract either 14 days or 28 days after. So we extract actually somewhere here. So this is still the period of convalescence. Okay? So this is how convalescent plasma is collected and transfused. So an illustration on the left side, represents a patient, COVID-19 patient who has recovered. And those why I understand there are people who are non-medical attending this conference. Those Y-shaped figures there, those are representing the antibodies against COVID-19. Okay, and it's in the blood. Okay, so we extract or draw the blood, the blood, and then place it in a machine, or rather continuously. It's not like you draw it and you put it in a machine. No, it doesn't work that way. You draw the whole blood. It goes to the apheresis machine. The apheresis machine separates the blood into the plasma and the red blood cells. The red blood cells are returned to the donor, and the plasma is harvested. Okay? It is the plasma that contains the antibody. Okay? Why do we do this? Why do we return the red blood cells? Because when the red blood cells are returned to the donor can again donate plasma after 2 weeks. If you extract or draw whole blood without returning the red blood cells to the donor, then the donor can only donate again 3 months after, because that is the time for the red cells to recover the loss if the donor has donated. Okay, so that is why we encourage donors to donate by apheresis. But there are really donors who cannot donate by using apheresis. Who are those donors? Those donors with very small veins. Okay? They cannot. Those donors are on the petite side, around 50. We cannot really draw so much blood from them to be placed in the apheresis machine. Okay, and sometimes first-time donors are really scared. We draw whole blood. Okay, not just plasma. Okay, the harvested plasma now on the right side of the illustration. This is the convalescent plasma being transfused to the sick patient with COVID-19. Okay, you can see there the antibodies represented by those white figures there, trying to attack the coronavirus there. Okay, now these antibodies are what we call your SARS-CoV-2 neutralizing antibodies. They neutralize the SARS-CoV-2 virus. Okay. Now that is just one of the effects of convalescent plasma. Plasma itself also contains immunomodulators, okay, cytokines. These are technical terms that would mean help that would help in how the patient can respond or can control the infection. Okay, so it's not just the antibodies but also the other modulators. Okay, now we're talking about the CP program. This CP program is compartmentalized. Well, it is just me trying to compartmentalize them, but this is how it's done operationally. There's the production side and the utilization side. In the convalescent plasma production side, that is where you have the activities that will involve will be donor recruitment, meaning how donors are brought to which donors are to be invited, which donors will be selected during the screening. Also the collection, testing, processing, and then the storage as well as the distribution. So my lecture actually will be focusing more on the CP production, because we blood bankers, we actually consider ourselves like we are in a manufacturing side of transfusion. Okay, we try to process blood components into products, okay, products that can be transfused. Now, on the utilization side, that involves the transfusion as well as reporting. Why do we need to report our convalescent transfusions? Because as early in my earlier slides, it is an investigational treatment. It is an investigational treatment being transfused or as a compassionate treatment. Okay, so you cannot say like why am I not allowed to transfuse? Okay, because this is an investigational treatment. Okay, sometime in April, that was like a few days, not really a few days, like around 3 weeks after the first convalescent plasma was harvested at PGH. The Department of Health issued Department Memorandum 2020 -0216. I think Mrs. Australia already discussed some parts of it. But that memorandum actually defined the basic requirements of a facility that can be authorized, given the authority, or certified to collect convalescent plasma. The facility is labeled as a certified convalescent plasma collecting facility, meaning a program can run in that blood service facility. When we say blood service facility, we refer to blood centers, blood banks, blood stations. Okay. Now, also the distribution was mentioned there. I think you have the joint memorandum. The distribution actually is encapsulated, meaning there is already a network. There is an existing and operational network of distribution of blood units or blood products. So since it is a blood product, it will be distributed in that network. Okay. Now, the memorandum also officially defined the how the donor recruitment will be done, what cannot be done, okay, including collection, processing, and the storage and distribution. As I've said, the department memorandum is heavy on the production side because the utilization side, the transfusion side, it is investigational. Okay, now it goes by saying so. What I'm trying to say is there are pathways of use. Okay? You can use an investigational treatment to know more about it in the venue of clinical research. Okay, if you have a clinical research, you should have an approved clinical trial protocol. Okay, so I think I'm sure PGH has an ongoing clinical trial. St. Luke's also has. I don't know if the others are still pursuing it. I think Lung Center Group, the other one, consortium among hospitals under the spearheaded by the hematologist. So that's the clinical trial protocol. The other one is compassionate use. Okay? You use it because the according to the protocol that the institution has adopted might help the patient. So it is compassionate use. Two pathways. Now, donor recruitment for convalescent plasma is, I mean, you who are going to implement a convalescent plasma program has to really adhere to the principles of voluntary non-remunerated blood donation. Isa Calzado was telling that because convalescent plasma is a scarce resource. When something is scarce, it has a commercial value, and when it has a commercial value, it can be commercialized. Okay, and that is one thing that we do not want in the blood program. When something is commercialized, the blood safety, okay, the safety of a blood product is compromised. Okay, please, I hope I'll get questions about this because I want everybody to be clarified. We don't want donors to be paid, okay? Because when they started to be paid, then they will withhold some information that has implications on the safety of the recipient and even their safety sometimes, right? So the DO's memorandum 2020-216 is clear about that, and those are really consistent with WHO principles. Okay, who can donate? These three groups of donors or actually, this is sometime April, but some of this has actually changed. Okay? Now, during that time, RT-PCR was only done like in RITM. So an ideal will be a positive RT-PCR test, initial RT-PCR, followed by negative RT-PCR. Then we wait for the absence of symptoms for 14 days. Okay, and then we will bleed or collect the blood, right, the convalescent plasma. Another group is an initial RT-PCR was done. It turned out to be positive. But since it's not so at that time not readily available, then RT-PCR was not done. Then you have to wait 28 days. Just make sure. Remember in that graph that I showed earlier, just to make sure that there's no more um, virus in the plasma. Although there are some reports actually that even in convalescents, um, there are a few cases, very few cases, reported cases that there's still RNA, meaning those are not really, well, they say it's not really infectious, but it's in the blood, but it cannot cause the COVID-19 disease because it cannot be transfused in the blood. Okay? Now, the third preference are those who did not have RT-PCR, either initially or in recovery. They have to wait for 28 days. And they have to be tested with the presence of IgG. Okay? IgG against COVID-19. Take note that in the first and second preference, not available, still not available in this slide, but now we have IgG testing. In the Philippine Blood Center, we do that. And even in other centers, we also require that in the certification. Okay? There has to be an IgG in all three groups of donors. Please ask questions later if I'm a little blurry on this one. Okay. Now, I think Mrs. Estrella also mentioned about donors being fetched. Okay, because we want to schedule donors. Okay? We don't want them to just barge into your blood service facility trying to donate. Okay, so we have to schedule them because there's a stigma attached to being a COVID-19 patient. There are people who might not understand. It might affect your regular blood donors. Okay, some blood donors might not go anymore. They hear like there are people going there who had COVID-19. So this is the reason why we want you schedule the donors, and also the procedure takes time. It takes time, not really that long, 2 hours, but your machine cannot do so many in one day. They don't want donors going there like 50 of them, and you only have one machine because you can only do like four if you operate 8 hours, no? So you have to schedule the visit to the blood center. And also, if we're talking about even I mean the audience include those are coming from the north, okay, I think far north almost. So if you are in lockdown, because the cases now are many in the provinces, if you're in lockdown, there's actually a blood donor pass. And I hope Mrs. Estrella mentioned about it. There is an issue once that can be used to pass through the checkpoints. Right? The blood donor pass is under the checkpoints, and this is electronic. They don't have to go. Okay, this is an example of the blood donor pass, and we control that here in NBBSP on how to release it. It's not something that can be abused because there are 2 copies of the pass going to the blood center or blood service facility, and from the blood service facility going back to their residence. Okay? So hindi sa pwedeng mag-shopping or to be used. Ano. They can go, but they cannot come back if they did not donate or did not go to the blood center. But I think there are no more there are no areas that are under ECQ this time. Okay. Now, what are the other criteria for donor to be accepted to donate? first he has, or the donor has to pass the basic criteria of a blood donor. And what are those? We have, it has to be more than 50 kilograms, 18 to 60 years old. Yeah, this age are those who can go out. Okay. Hemoglobin of 12.5 to 13.5, a normal BP, and other medical parameters like your absence of other medical conditions like malignancies, okay? And the risk of transfusion transmissible infections. And you will be asked about sexual risk. Another is no history of transfusion and transplantation. Remember, I told you about trolley earlier. Those anti-HLA and anti-HNA, the antibodies to them are formed when your body is stimulated by foreign substances like blood, okay? Or when there is transplantation. So you form that antibody, and that antibody, when transfused to a patient, might cause acute lung injury. Okay? So ano pa, there's another condition that will form the anti-HLA, anti-HNA. When a woman is pregnant, because basically the baby is not the same as the woman, as the mother. So the mother can form anti-HLA or anti-HNA against the baby. It will not usually result to a reaction to the baby, but when that pregnant woman having the anti-HLA and the anti-HNA donates plasma, and the plasma is transfused to a patient, it can cause acute lung injury, which is high mortality rate actually. It can be fatal. And if you have COVID, if you transfuse it, the COVID, which is a respiratory disease, it can aggravate the disease. Okay? What are the laboratory tests? CBC because we're talking about hemoglobin. And we also need to know the platelet count and the hematocrit because these are needed in the machine. And of course, if the patient is having anemia, the donor is having anemia, the donor cannot or very low platelet or very low hematocrit or a very high hematocrit. We also test for SARS-CoV-2, IgM, and IgG. I mentioned earlier that early in the pandemic, we did not have these tests, but now we do test for both. Okay. HLA and HNA antibody screening when necessary. So when are they necessary? When a patient and a donor has had history of pregnancy, when a donor had transfusion, or when a donor had transplantation. A transplantation, not just organ, but also stem cell transplantation, there has to be HLA and HNA. But anti-HLA, anti-HNA, well, at least as far as I know, it's only the Philippine Blood Center that can do HLA, and because this is an expensive test, we can screen for anti-HLA and anti-HNA. Okay? So those units or those donors that are positive to anti-HLA and anti-HNA, we don't need. Okay. What we encourage to do if there are donors who have those conditions, pregnancy and transfusion or transplantation, they can refer to us. They can refer to Philippine Blood Center, and they do here. Maybe in your case, if you're like far and you have those kinds of donors, I don't know. We'll have to talk to Miss Australia if it's possible that we do the screening and you can meet the donor there. You can just send the plasma. We'll have to talk it out with Mrs. Australia because EBC, as I know you say, it's an organization, okay? And NBBSP mans the rest of the blood source facilities. Pre-donation testing at least 1 day before the donation for the following reasons. First, we don't want the donor going to the blood center only to be told that he cannot donate and she cannot donate, and also to give us time to do the testing And of course, the kits are expensive. It's about like 14,000. We can do that, we collect and we just test later. Okay? And we don't want donors to be waiting for so long. Okay? As I've mentioned, there are two manners of collection, can be whole blood or plasmapheresis, or using that for this machine. Whole blood, I mentioned this, the first time donors, those with small veins. Plasmapheresis, ideally the bigger persons with big veins and who had history of donation already, has donated whole blood already. Sorry, I'm talking so fast, but actually I'm a slow speaker. Okay, now, whole blood or plasma, the volume will depend on the dosing. Okay, so if you are a listener here or attending here as a blood banker, you have to talk with your clinicians, the utilizers, the end users. What is the protocol that they are going to use? Are they going to use 250 given two doses? Are they going to use 400 ml? Are they going to transfuse fresh? Are they going to freeze? So that's why you really have to talk with your end user. Okay. So depending on the protocol, we at the Philippine Blood Center, we process our plasma into 250 units, 200 to 250 units. Okay? If a attending physician needs 400, then we give 400 from the 2 units that we have. Okay? And of course, you cannot collect so much in beyond what the donor's height, weight, or hematocrit can allow. Okay? That's actually technical. That can be adjusted in the machine. Okay. We test the collected units like in any other blood products. We test for transfusion, transmissible, and infectious markers. What are they? HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, syphilis, and malaria. These are mandated I think it's in the Republic Act, or National Voluntary Blood Services of 1994. Okay. We also do antibody screening. Why we do antibody screening? This antibody screening of to rare blood group. Okay? Rare blood groups like ba yun, mga KEL, MNS, okay, those antibodies. We also screen that because we don't want, although we're transfusing plasma, we want the plasma product to be in its ideal state, having no antibodies that can react to a patient's blood. We also do nucleic acid testing. In the Philippines, there are only a few blood service facilities with nucleic acid testing. Nucleic acid testing, we use that to validate our negative results of transfusion transmissible infection. So translating that to a layman term, we're making our blood more safer by testing those units that are already negative. Okay, this is an added test to make sure that the blood or the convalescent plasma is really negative to HIV, hepatitis B, hepatitis C, syphilis, and malaria. Okay. Now, processing, mentioned also earlier about would your clinician want to transfuse it fresh or frozen? The problem with transfusing it fresh, what if the line is not patent, meaning you cannot do the transfusion yet? Time is running out because fresh plasma that's not frozen will expire in 24 hours inside the refrigerator. But if it's in room temperature, it's 6-8 hours. It will not be good for transfusion anymore. And also, if you need to transport, it has to be frozen. Okay? Now, when you store also the plasma, it depends on the temperature, storage temperature, because you can actually keep frozen plasma products up to 7 years. Okay? In the Philippine Blood Center, we store our frozen plasma at -65. Okay? So hopefully, we still have the units. We can use it like 7 years from now. And we also do pathogen reduction treatment. In PBC, and as far as I know, in the Philippines, It's only PBC who has which has pathogen reduction treatment. The purpose of pathogen reduction is there might be elements, viral elements inside the plasma, even contaminants that will be killed by pathogen reduction technology. Okay. Labeling, there is a labeling format, and it should be a label should be cryo resistant. You know, the labels in the ice cream and even the frozen products they're similar to that because it's food grade, okay? Not just any stickers or labels that can stick to your blood units. It has to have the label should contain temperature of storage, date the blood was collected, expiration date, the blood type, of course, including ABO and RH, donation or the pack number, name and volume of the anticoagulant solution that's present, a name of the blood service facility for traceability. Special instructions like use only. This is coming from a human being. Those things that you can put in. Distribution. This is actually a very controversial issue because there are actually there are relatives that will call and they want convalescent plasma to be transfused to their relatives who had just turned out to be positive to COVID-19 and having mild symptoms. It's not that, I mean, we just don't give out those blood CP units. It has to pass through the attending physician, and that attending physician cannot also just do it. Okay, not because I'm a physician I can transfuse. No, there has to be an approved clinical, a treatment protocol. I mentioned like two clinical trial or compassionate use. The institution, the hospital has to come up with a treatment protocol signed by, if they have an IRB or the chief of hospital has to approve the clinical trial and the treatment protocol for compassionate use, or if it's a clinical trial, has to be approved at that level. Why? Because, well, the accountability sets on the hospital. Okay. And also, accessibility, as I've said, this is a scarce resource. Should you give it to somebody who has the money, or should you give it first to somebody who needs it more but don't have the money to pay or cannot access it? That's why we require that there has to be a policy stated there how you are going to prioritize the giving or the transfusion of convalescent plasma. In another institution like in PGH, they form an ad hoc committee composed of 3 independent individuals. So if they have to come to a vote, it has to be always odd. If they have to come to a vote, then they will be divided. A majority and a minority. Okay. The distribution will be in the network lead of the CP facility, like in the region, probably the regional blood center. Okay, transport between blood service facility and the infusing facility has to be -20. When it's transported at -20, the new expiration now becomes that of a -20, 3 months. From the blood bank to the bedside, since it's stowed, it's not frozen, it has to be 2 to 10 degrees. Even if it's fresh, you have to transfuse it, transport it at 2 to negative, and in 2 to 10 degrees centigrade. Okay. Transfusion, the usual, for the blood bankers here, you just treat it like a fresh frozen plasma. They check for cracks, signs of deterioration prior to thawing. Okay, you do pre-transfusion testing, you do not cross-match because this is a plasma product. You do only reverse typing. Okay, once though, do not freeze again. You cannot use it if you freeze it. Okay? It is dose dependent depending on the protocol. And adverse reaction can happen because this is a blood product. Reporting has to be, as a mechanism on reporting, like a blood product transfusion reaction has to be in place. The documentation similar to the blood donation, whole blood donation. Donors, data about the donors, donation, the distribution, where did it go, where was it, where was it distributed, okay. And during the transfusion, the testing, transfusion form, the consent, of course, as I said, consent is very crucial because this is an investigational treatment. Okay, so there has to be a consent. The blood request and also the blood transfusion reaction investigation. If there is an investigation, there is a transfusion reaction. Okay, and another thing is when every after CP transfusion, you have to report your transfusion to FDA. Okay? In Philippine Blood Center, at first, if we release a convalescent plasma to you, and you do not report to FDA about your transfusion, we cannot give you subsequent units. It is very important to us that you report to FDA. I hope when you implement yours, you have to follow that. Okay. How is, I think Mrs. Australia talked about this already, blood service facility certification. It has to be a blood center or a blood bank with additional function because these two are the ones that are allowed to perform apheresis. And they have to have an experience in apheresis. And letter 10, okay, these slides will be available, so later you can screen capture this one to our assistant secretary and attention to myself and Mrs. Australia. Okay. Physical facilities, the blood bankers would know this. This is very similar to a an inspection tool. Okay, it has to be a separate area. Okay. Sometimes there's a bargain like, what if they only have a small? Then you have to schedule it. But that is on the discretion of the inspectors because the department memorandum actually mentioned that it has to be a separate area. So reception area, donor counseling, donor extraction, access to the sink because for the hand washing, a refrigerator, a blood transfer box, a work area with a table and chairs that is for the donor to sit while having to fill up or when he's taking this. Okay. The equipment, one apheresis machine can process 4 donors. Sometimes the donation actually will take longer than 2 hours. Or if you happen to have an apheresis machine that's very slow, then you cannot do more than 4 in a day. If whole blood collection is an option, there has to be supplies for that, like a triple bag, or an automated blood mixer. Again, these are not the same as from the main collection area, the automated blood mixer. There has to be 2: tube sealer, surgical forceps, scissors, and the others. Of course, water. Pathogen reduction is mentioned in this department memorandum, but if not available, you can have it processed in another facility, but that other facility is only in Philippine Blood Center. So the way around it is you have to mention it in the consent that the convalescent plasma that is going to be transfused is not pathogen reduced, that all the safety measures are in place to make sure that this blood is safe. Okay. A written manual of operations, just like in any other licensing requirements, you have and then has to be incorporated to your blood bank or your blood center manual of operations. So they should include recruitment, collection, processing, storage, as well as allocation, release, or under the umbrella term distribution. Certification process, this has been discussed, okay? Submit letter of intent, prepare the requirements, send it to this email here, nbsp.pohcp program, gmail.com. And then the NBBSP, that is the staff of Mrs. Australia and Philippine Blood Center, myself and some of the staff will pre-screen and assess. Schedule inspection, virtual or face-to-face, personally I prefer face-to-face, but this virtual is longer to do, harder to do. If there's compliance from the inspection, you need to comply, and then she wants a certificate already. But what we do is once we have inspected, we can actually start. I mean, we will tell you if you can start collecting already. And so this is the joint department circular. Yeah, it is. I know this is the checklist for the certification convalescent plasma collecting facility. This department circular translated the requirements defined in the department memorandum into a checklist. So this is an official document. So how is the Philippine Blood Center program? We are non-hospital based. We don't have patients here. We are strictly doing it voluntary, non-remunerated blood donor. Okay? I mean blood donation. We have pathogen reduction. We have HLA antibodies testing or screening. We have nucleic acid testing. And this facility actually is the most like half or two-thirds of the entire second floor of the Philippine Blood Center because we envision this one to be a response to any emerging or re-emerging infection. So hopefully there's going to be no COVID 2021 but since convalescent plasma becomes the first line of investigational treatment in a pandemic or an emerging infection. Okay, this is a picture. This is actually quite big, and that's for our regular donations. The other half is for regular donations. They have a different entrance and exit from the convalescent plasma here on the other side. Okay, and I think also is this Australia? I hope we have the same figures because this is from my December lecture that total number of blood facilities that lodged and those that already certified 34, and 11 currently certified, 4 are trying to complete the certificate, but by this time I think at least 1 or 2 of these 4 is already added to the certified. There are 3 ready for inspection and an ongoing pre-assessment 15. 1 canceled an application because their other branch is already certified, so they are concentrating on that branch. Okay, and these are the certified collecting facilities: the PBC, the Red Cross at the port area, Chinese General Hospital, UPPGH, Asian Hospital, De La Salle University Medical Center. Okay, in the provinces we have Ilocos, ITRMC, we have Sergeant down south, Davao, Central Visayas, we have Subnational Blood Center Visayas, and recently the Medical City. Okay, those that have been visited, we have St. Luke's Medical Center, Global City, we have Makati Medical Center, Manila Med, and the Los Santos Medical Center. Okay, now this is the joint memorandum circular that I was mentioning, and this is actually discussed by Mr. Australia. Okay, so these are collaterals that you can use. You can actually view our Facebook page and can borrow all this. Okay, and that's the end of my lecture. I can start answering some of the questions that were posted while I was in the meeting. Okay, what was the first question? Will it affect the recipient in case a blood unit obtained from an asymptomatic donor to be transfused? Will affect the patient in case a blood unit. Okay. I think the question is if the donor donates whole blood, the usual donation, whole blood, red cells, will it affect the recipient if that donor of whole blood, meaning this is not the convalescent plasma he's talking about. Yes, AABB documents actually states that it's not transmissible by blood. So when you transfuse red cell from a donor who happen to be asymptomatic of SARS-CoV-2, it will not. And based on my experience, I think I have about like 3 or 4 cases The donor donated, and then like 4 days after, the donor turned out to be positive to SARS-CoV-2, and we already transfused the red cell. Nothing happened to those patients. But what we do, we advise the attending physician that we actually transfuse a unit from a donor who happened to have asymptomatic COVID-19. Probably they could be just false positive, but yeah, we assume they're positive, and nothing happened actually to those 3 or 4 patients. Now the next question is: are patients who are asymptomatic COVID positive considered survivors after their minimum 14-day isolation? We don't rely on symptoms. We have to test for IgG antibody, IgG or IgM antibody. It's not for us to label them as survivors, but they are our potential donors. If they don't have the antibodies, even after waiting 14, 28 days, then they will not, they cannot donate convalescent plasma. Number 3 questions, how much po ang blood processing fee for CP? Meron po ba standard na price? Actually, this question is for Mrs. Estrella because, as I've said, if it concerns the entire network, then it's Mrs. Estrella. In the Philippine Blood Center, we price our unit at 25,000, okay, at 250, 250. So 25,000. There is no document that regulated the pricing, but that is a fair price. Some actually have, and considering that we do anti-HLA, HNA screening, and we do pathogen reduction, and we do nucleic acid testing, so that's actually cheaper. This is also the reason that those collecting facilities I know, they price it at around 23. Okay. Number 4, sa PBC po ba free ang convalescent plasma? No. No, because we have to recover costs. Can we have the list of CP collecting facility and their contact number, and also how much is CP unit? The CP price will depend on the costing computation and the pricing of the blood service facility. I already showed, and you can access this lecture actually after this is being recorded. So you can look at those facilities. There are only 11 right now. Okay. How could we avail or have access to the convalescent plasma products, particularly the plasma? You ask patients. You cannot directly access it. You have to go through the hospital, and the hospital has to have a treatment protocol, an approved treatment protocol. If you happen to be admitted in that hospital, then you can be transfused convalescent plasma. Yeah, that's the last question. If there are other questions, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Tagayuna. So definitely not only a very informative and lengthy discussion, but definitely a discussion that I think covers from start to finish, and the involvement, of course, of our medical experts, and of course how we can encourage or how we can fit in our voluntary donors. If actually with the first round of questions answered by Dr. Tagayuna, I think we can also open the forum for probably 3 questions. And this is where we would like to invite actually our participants if they would like to ask their questions live. So for those who wish to be recognized, so they can ask their questions, and so they may be unmuted for this purpose, you may indicate so in the chat. Again, we will entertain up to 3 questions. So you can ask live from Dr. Tagayuna, or of course from our other speakers, Miss Estrella, for blood donation questions, for convalescent plasma questions. You may also ask Dr. Tagayuna while they are here to entertain us po.
And Dr. Robert, there are questions here given by Yes. Is plasma convalescence safe for infants have severe COVID-19
Yes.
disease? It's not for me to say. That's why this is investigational. Okay? It can be given. It can be given to infants, but you'll have a different dose. The safety, as per experience, there's really very little reaction. But we cannot say it's totally safe. How effective? Another question is how effective convalescent plasma therapy for COVID patients? There are even studies from UK that say it's not effective. That's telling you, but there are patients really that a lot of patients um, would recover after a transfusion with convalescent plasma because it's not only the plasma or the antibodies that will count. As I've said, a patient that has COVID will also receive other treatments. Any training available for medtechs? If you are a certified collecting facility, we can train you in PVC. How safe are blood donors? Okay, how safe it is to give convalescent plasma? Very safe. Okay, but there are donor reactions. I tell you that can happen in any donation or any procedure. But it's safe. These reactions are usually minor. How many does COVID-19 recovery patient can donate his or her convalescent plasma? How many times? Until the IgG is still positive or present, we can continue collecting convalescent plasma. How long can a COVID recovered individual donate whole blood? How long? Yeah, for whole blood, it's 14 days. 14 days from the disappearance of symptoms or a negative RT-PCR. If COVID vaccine will be available, it will be mandated to have it. Will be the guidelines and protocol for the people who had their COVID vaccine that wants to donate blood. For convalescent plasma, because you form antibodies from vaccination, you cannot donate convalescent plasma. For whole blood donors, for whole blood donation rather, if you are vaccinated, it will fall under those in the vaccination deferral for live attenuated by vaccines, 14 days. Okay? After 14 days after vaccination, the problem is there's going to be another dose. Okay? I think most of the vaccine protocol is 2 doses. Can one donate after receiving a COVID-19 vaccine? Yeah, I think this is the same question. Okay, you can donate for whole blood after 14 days. Yeah, kindly check. Yeah, for any vaccination from live attenuated, it's 14 days. I'm actually referring to an AABB document that says COVID-19 vaccination carries a 14-day deferral for whole blood donation. Wala nang questions. Meron. So there is another question, a phone-in question. What if indigent or the patient does not have the means to pay for the processing fees of CP? This is a hard question for me, but what we do, it will be on the hospital bill, and from there, I think the DSWP, it will be in the hospital, it will be hospital policy. As for us, we will issue the convalescent plasma to the hospital. It will be up to the hospital how are they going to charge. Yeah.
Okay po. Well, I think this actually for Dr. Tagayun and for our for Mrs. Estrella, the last is actually more of a request than a concern from Mr. Vicente Reyes. Do we have statistics or data about the efficacy of CT So I think this is one of those materials na probably we can just request na lang, the DILG will request na lang from Dr. Tagayuna or probably from the DOH, so that we can provide it together with the recording, which we will submit for the DILG Facebook page after all webinar series have been completed for the clusters of Visayas and Mindanao. So there being actually, we can just have one last call for one more live question. If anybody wishes to ask live, you may chat one more question for our speakers. And I guess okay na po.
Dr. Robert, I think it's
Yes.
I attended, or I was a co-speaker in the forum, speaker talking about the initial experience of convalescent plasma, COVID-19 convalescent plasma, and he mentioned that they're very encouraging, no reactions. At least there are no transfusion reactions, and think weaning from the ventilator is one of those that are seen. So there's really improvement, and the shortened course.
Yes, sir. Yes, doctor. Well, if anybody from our participants, I think this is also something that our medical experts or our medical our focal persons for health or medical concerns for the LGUs maybe would like to ask regarding this concern. Regarding this point po. We might have one last discussion point before we close our forum. Okay po. So, there being none, definitely first, while I have the opportunity po, I'd like to thank Ms. Estrella and of course Dr. Tagayuna and all our speakers for today. As we can see, the LGUs definitely have a part to play, but also this is where our medical experts and our medical frontliners also take center stage. So I'd also like to express my gratitude for everything that they have been doing from the very start of the pandemic. We have never seen a shortage of our frontliners, our medical experts also, our medical frontliners, really pulling out all the stops para we can help our people, and at the same time we make the effort for COVID moving forward and a paying it forward kind of effort. So definitely the open forum was very productive, Dr. Erica, and definitely not only did we learn, but we also saw, as stress-free by Ms. Estrella, that it's really a whole of nation approach. It's really an inter-agency approach. It can't just be DILG, it can't just be DOH. But synergy should be there.
Yes, you're correct, Mr. Echeverry. And now let's move forward for the presentation and awarding of certificates to our speakers. We would like to award this certificate of appreciation to our beloved speakers for imparting their valuable time and expertise in the webinar on Dugo Buhay local voluntary blood and convalescent plasma donation amidst the COVID-19 pandemic held on January 6 to 8, 2021 via Cisco WebEx. Signed, Rico Janvier M. Echeverry, JD, MPSA, Undersecretary for External and Legislative Affairs. Okay, to close our day of our webinar series.
Yes,
Sir Rico?
Yes, Dr. Erica. So definitely the awarding and the presentation of our appreciation for our speakers will not be complete, and also for rounding up our event, it will not be complete without a message from one of our main partners, actually our main partner, the Department of Health. And on behalf of Secretary Francisco of the Department of Health, we have no less than Undersecretary Mirna C. Cabotaje for the closing remarks. Dr. Cabotaje has broad public health background with exposure to field operations, having worked extensively in the Cordillera and Ilocos region. And she was also part of the Technical Bureau of the Department of Health. Dr. Cabotaje also worked as a physician in a copper mining firm after graduating in 1978 from the University of the Philippines College of Medicine. And she joined the Under 5 Clinic of the Baguio General Hospital and Medical Center in 1982. She later transferred to the regional office of the DOH in Baguio City, where she was reassigned to the National Center for Disease Prevention and Control, which is now the DPCB. And she went back again to the DOH Cordillera Administrative Region, where she was then sent to the DOH Regional Office 1 in San Fernando City, La Union. And she made her way back to the Central Office in Disease Prevention and Control Bureau and Public Health Services Team. She is definitely one of the most decorated officers of the Department of Health. She was appointed Undersecretary of Health by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte in February 2019 after her retirement. As Undersecretary of Public Health Services Team, she brings with her the same passion and continues to champion integrity, excellence, and commitment to help assist the administration of Secretary Francisco Duque in championing universal healthcare. And also, as we can see, she has also helped take the lead in the fight of the Department of Health for a safe and healthy Philippines amidst the COVID-19 pandemic. So again, everyone, let us call upon Undersecretary Mirna Cabotaje for her closing remarks for today's webinar series.
As we close this webinar, we thank all our local chief executives, local blood program coordinators, local blood council officers and members, and volunteer blood donors for their collective effort and strong support in implementing the activities and advocacies of the National Voluntary Blood Services Program, the NBBSP, in their areas. The partnership with the Department of Interior and Local Government, or the DILG, has been established through the Joint Memorandum Circular number 2020-02 to strengthen the execution of voluntary, non-remunerated blood donation and convalescent plasma donation in the country. The safest source of blood and blood products are coming from volunteer blood donors in communities for patients who will need blood products for transfusion. If community-based mobile blood donation or MBD activities are not conducted regularly in our communities, and there is a lack of support from the local chief executives to conduct these MBDs, there will be a significant shortage of blood supply and convalescent plasma for patients, which was experienced during this time of pandemic. For convalescent plasma, while it is not yet recommended for routine use to treat COVID-19 as of now, some clinicians use it as a possible life-saving measure for compassionate use. The potential uses of convalescent plasma for the management of COVID-19 is being fully explored. We enjoin everyone, especially our local chief executives, to be the spark that will ignite, the start, or keep the flame burning for the regular blood donation in their communities, and now to include donation of convalescent plasma from COVID-19 recovered individuals. We need your continued commitment to help us sustain the supply of safe blood in the country, remove paid donations, and move towards 100% voluntary, non-remunerated blood donation. Once again, thank you and keep safe, everyone.
Thank you very much once again, Undersecretary Tahe. And for everybody, thank you very much for your participation and your attendance. It formally closes our first day for the Luzon cluster, and we are looking forward to another successful webinar day tomorrow. I look forward actually to moderating tomorrow again with Dr. Erica.
Yes, partner. Tomorrow we will conduct another webinar for the Visayan cluster. If you wish to join us again tomorrow, please do not hesitate to notify us. We will be having speakers from Visayas, Governor Edwin Mariano Ongchuan of Northern Samar. He will talk about the blood program journey of the province of Northern Samar. Mr. Roland Gorgonia from Eastern Visayas Regional Medical Center, and we'll talk about the blood safety in Eastern Visayas. And on Friday, we'll be also going to have some speakers from Mindanao Cluster, Mayor Angel Yap and Dr. Sherjan Kalim, also with Dr. Tagoyana and Ma'am Estrella.
And also, I would like to thank Dr. Erica, my partner for today and for the next few days. And of course, for everybody from the DILG also who participated and joined from the central office. Again, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. And of course, on behalf of Secretary Eduardo Año and of our boss, Undersecretary RJ Echeverry, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat. Isang makabuluhang hapon po ito. At maligayang bagong taon sa ating lahat at mabuhay po tayong lahat. Maraming salamat.
Hi, I'm Isa Calzado and I'm a COVID-19 survivor. The safest blood or plasma donation comes from voluntary, unpaid blood donation from COVID-19 survivors like myself. So I am encouraging my fellow survivors to please donate your plasma or your blood because so many people are in need of this. Let's help save lives.
I'm excited, girls! Saan ba tayo pupunta?
Diba, you asked, what can we do to make a difference?
Give blood! 3 lives ang pwede mong maligtas with just 1 bag. Give now! Over 18 ka na, healthy pa, pwedeng-pwede kang mag-donate. Give often! Every 3 months, gawing habit mo ng mag-donate.
Wow! Ang sarap na pakiramdam!
Remember, give blood, give now, give often. Give blood, give now, give often.
Isang mensahe mula sa Department of Health.